One Saraphina and Caitlin just hit the ultimate respawn button together, in there. Past life, Saraphina was the university's ultra-frosty ice queen. For 4 whole years of college, Caitlin didn't spare her a single glance. Yet, there was a plot twist. After graduation, he had to marry her. On their wedding day, Caitlin laid down 3 ironclad rules for them. They only needed to put on an Oscar-worthy performance for their parents. For the rest of their lives, they would mind their own business. Caitlin felt absolutely nothing for Seraphina and never bothered to ask about her world. In return, she never pried into his affairs either. No matter how late he came home or if he stayed out all night doing who knows what, she never cared and never asked questions. Caitlin thought Seraphina was just like him, only marrying him due to parental pressure. That was until the day he suddenly died. From a sudden illness, Seraphina rushed to the hospital like a madwoman. She dropped to her knees in front of the doctor, begging desperately, pleading with him to please save his life. She promised that if he brought him back, he could take her own life instead. At that moment, Caitlin was standing there in his brand new ghost form. Watching the heartbreaking scene unfold, time and again he tried to hug her. But every single time, his ghostly hands phased right through her physical body. He tried to comfort her, but she could not hear a single word. She just kept bitterly pleading with the doctor until her intense emotions went into overdrive and she passed out cold. Seraphina held his black and white funeral photo, crying a river of tears. She looked at the man, the black and white photo, with an expression of pure agony, gently caressing his face, tracing it inch by inch with eyes brimming with deep nostalgia and heartache. Then, Seraphina casually picked up a bottle of sleeping pills. She wanted to end the intense pain brought on by her grief. Suddenly, Bria snatched the pills right out of her hand with lightning speed, saying it has been 4 years and he is gone. Hearing those words, Seraphina's face instantly turned as pale as a sheet of paper. Her breathing even hitched for a second. Yes, he was already dead. Gone for 4 long years. The voice coming from her mouth carried a slight broken tremble, her face filled with deep sorrow. In his ghostly state, Caitlin absorbed every single detail of this. Bria gave her a tight, comforting hug, patting her back. She gently reminded her that tomorrow is his death anniversary, so she needs to find final closure and say goodbye to the past. Seraphina nodded, agreeing it was finally time to find closure after suffering in deep depression for him for 4 long years. That evening, Seraphina cooked a massive table of dishes, an absolute grand feast. She picked up a piece of sweet and sour vinegar chicken, placing it into the bowl on his side of the table, habitually starting to talk to herself. Caitlin, these are all your favorite dishes. You didn't know before she married him she could not even boil an egg. She worked hard to learn from a master chef just for him. Seraphina reached out. She traced her knife scars, powdering her lips with a deeply sorrowful expression. She whispered about how clumsy she was, slicing her fingers open so many times. But when she saw him eating the food she made, catching that look of pure joy as he took huge bites, she felt like everything was completely worth it. Kalin only found out after he died that every single one of those dishes was personally prepared by Seraphina. He still remembered the first time he tasted her food. He thought it was incredibly delicious, even assuming back then that she had hired a Michelin star nanny. It went far beyond just cooking. Whenever Kalin got drunk, she took care of him. Every single piece of his clothing was personally ironed by her hands. She would even secretly kiss him while he was dead, asleep, silently guarding and caring for him the whole time. Yet he was completely, utterly oblivious to it all, always treating her like she was invisible. Seraphina picked up a piece of spicy boiled fish for him once more, then continued, whispering that this was her final meal for him, and tomorrow, after paying her respects, she would completely erase every single memory of him from her mind for the best. Kalin's ghost let out a heavy, silent sigh. Even though Seraphina was already in her early 30s, she still held that mesmerizing, breathtaking charm. Mature and stunningly beautiful, she did not need to stay chronically depressed over a dead man like him. She truly deserved to start a brand new life. The next day, Seraphina put on a pure white wedding dress and headed straight to the cemetery. Standing directly in front of his tombstone, she looked stunning today, her long hair falling in gorgeous, cascading waves. Her face wore a flawless, meticulous makeup look, contrasting beautifully with her pristine wedding dress. Her beauty hardly seemed to belong to this Mortal realm, looking exactly like a fairy descending straight from the ninth heaven. Kalin always knew she was gorgeous, but he had never paid her any real attention. Even on their wedding day, his mind was only focused on rushing through the tedious protocols, not paying a single ounce of extra attention to her. Whether she looked stunning or plain, it had not mattered. Now she smiled at his tombstone, looking extraordinarily beautiful. His ghostly eyes stared in absolute awe. She muttered to herself about how silly she was, knowing he wouldn't care if she looked beautiful or not, her quiet words dripping with absolute, painful bitterness. Saraphina gently placed chrysanthemums right in front of the tombstone, staring down at his name, Kalin, carved deep into the stone. A flood of memories was dragged out, piercing her heart with deep pain. Kalin. "Do you miss me?" she whispered, while his spirit desperately cried out an apology. He placed his hand gently on top of her head. Even though she felt nothing, he still couldn't help himself. She sighed, saying he wouldn't miss her anyway, her face showing a bitter smile. "But I still miss you," she murmured as tears began to stream down her cheeks like falling pearls. She whispered that it was so strange because even though he was gone, she felt his presence close by. This entire time, almost as if he were stroking her hair right now. Hearing those words, his spectral hand froze midair, his face twisting with profound grief. She continued, admitting that she had originally wanted to end her own life. But she could not do it because her mother would never survive the devastating loss. Otherwise, they wouldn't be on non-speaking terms. She says she is moving away in a few days, leaving this city far behind, never to return. So before she leaves for good, she wanted him to get one last look at her in a wedding dress, for his eyes only, promising she will never wear a wedding dress for anyone else ever again. Saying that, Seraphina waves her hand at Kalin's tombstone, saying she has to go now. Goodbye. She reluctantly pulls her gaze away, lingering for a long while before finally turning to leave. Kalin stands in front of his own grave, unable to follow her. He just stands there, watching Seraphina walk away. She has just walked to the side of the highway when she suddenly remembers she is still wearing his wedding ring on her finger. She wants to return that ring to him, to forget everything about their past. Seraphina starts pulling it off. Suddenly, the ring slips right through her fingers, rolling onto the ground and right toward the center of the road. His ring. Seraphina hurries to chase after it. This was the ring Kalin personally slid onto her finger. On their wedding day, she had never taken it off, not even once. Right at that moment, a clunky dump truck, the legendary Ice-Sky Express truck Kun, suddenly barrels head-on toward her at breakneck speed. Kalin screams for her to dodge it. He anxiously floats over, screaming his lungs out. Then, boom, the dump truck slams into her ruthlessly. He watches helplessly as Seraphina is sent flying, tracing a tragic arc in midair, before fluttering to the ground like a withered autumn leaf, scattered and broken. It is a heartbreaking sight. He screams like a banshee, proud, looking at Seraphina lying in a pool of blood. The crimson blood blooms like plum blossoms, exploding across the pure white wedding dress. Seraphina's face is as pale as paper. Weakly, she turns her head toward the tombstone where Kalin is. A bitter smile hangs on the corner of her lips. Tears slide down her cheeks, one drop after another. She thinks this is fine too. But it is not fine, not fine at all. Kalin begs her to hold on. The ambulance will be there any second. He tells her she is not allowed to die. Again and again he tries to scoop Seraphina up into his arms, but ultimately it is a totally fruitless effort. Can you even imagine that level of helpless agony? He hates himself. She gasps that the biggest regret of her life was meeting him and falling in love with him. As she speaks, her tears cascade down endlessly. If everything could restart, she says, she would absolutely never fall in love with him again. By this point, Seraphina's life force has almost completely drained away, until finally she loses all signs of life, lying still in a pool of crimson blood. No, Kalin roars hysterically. If everything could restart, he swears to God he will do everything to make it up to her and protect her. He won't let her suffer even a single bit of grievance. He won't let her shed a single tear. As Kalin thinks this, he suddenly grabs his head. His mind splits with pain, feeling like it is about to explode. His vision goes pitch black, and he collapses onto the ground, collapsing right next to Seraphina. Everything turns from dust to dust, earth to earth. When Kalin wakes up again, he realizes he has respawned. He pulls out his phone, glancing at the time displayed on the screen. July 12, 2021. He has actually teleported back to his university days, but what he What he didn't know was that his wife, Saraphina, had miraculously regressed as well. At that exact moment, he was lying comfortably in the school infirmary. The school had organized a tournament right when he strolled past the court. He ended up getting completely sniped in the back of the head by a stray ball. In this timeline, Saraphina was currently just his college classmate. And the guy who threw that brutal shot was actually in her class. That meant Saraphina, as class president, would have to represent them and check on him. Knowing this was coming, he squeezed his eyes shut in pure excitement. He lay there quietly, eagerly waiting for his beloved wife to show up. Then footsteps slowly echoing from right outside the room. They slowly approached his bedside until a very familiar scent filled the air. It was a faint medicinal fragrance, a scent he knew better than anyone. This was the unique aroma that belonged entirely to his beloved Saraphina. Flooded with nostalgia, he couldn't help but take a deep, quiet breath. "Hello, classmate," a sweet, melodic voice suddenly called out to him. It was Saraphina. Leaning forward, she stared down at him. Her eyes were soft, and her thick, delicate eyelashes fluttered like butterfly wings. Overwhelmed with emotion, he suddenly reached up and grabbed her hand. In his previous life, he never realized just how deeply she loved him. During those 4 lonely years as a ghost, he only wanted to hold her. He wanted to pull her close, to comfort her every single second. He just phased through her, total, crushing, bitter helplessness. He had faced that crushing powerlessness countless times, and honestly, it was absolute torture. He could finally feel her hand, so unbelievably warm and soft. Saraphina froze, staring down in absolute shock as her ears flushed bright red. She tightly pursed her lips, clearly fighting a massive internal war. She tried yanking her hand back, the result, total failure. Since she was staying silent, he decided to keep his eyes shut and play dead. Just then, Saraphina's energetic best friend, Bria, suddenly burst into the room. "Hey, you pervert," she yelled, "let go of our Saraphina right now." Bria rushed over, aggressively trying to pry his stubborn fingers loose. Saraphina quickly stopped her, begging Bria to be gentle since he was still hurt. Hearing those sweet words, his heart melted into a puddle of sheer gratitude. Having a loving wife really was the absolute best, no doubt about it. Bria yelled, asking if Saraphina had also gotten brain damage from a basketball. She couldn't believe her friend was defending a guy clearly taking advantage of her. A faint, bitter smile touched Saraphina's lips as she stood there in silence. She had already made a firm, heartbreaking resolve in this new life. If everything reset, she promised herself she would never get involved with him again. The girl who had loved him so deeply had died crying at his grave. Bria snapped at him, demanding to know why he was still holding on to her. She stood with her hands on her hips, practically roaring with anger. But he wasn't about to release her after that brutal hit to the head. She almost sent him to the afterlife, so she had to take responsibility. Instead of letting go, he gave her soft hand another firm, playful pull. He pulls Saraphina toward him, making her stumble and fall right on top of him. Her face lands squarely on his legs, even with a blanket between them. It still makes her ears turn cherry red instantly. His face is also burning. Turning a deep shade of purple, he definitely pulled her on purpose. But she landed in a pretty awkward spot, right there actually. It literally knocks cold sweat right out of him, her pupils dilate. Massively shocked, she pulls her fingertips back instantly. She clutches her clothes at her side, eyes darting everywhere. Her heart is thumping wild. Saraphina clears her throat. Trying to calm down, she says she is the class president of Fine Arts Class 9. Her name is Saraphina. Just now her class played a basketball game against Class 8, and a classmate accidentally swatted the ball out of bounds, hitting him. She apologizes on behalf of everyone. Kalin replies that just saying sorry is not enough. She should treat him to a meal. He is ready to speedrun their relationship right now, no time to waste. Even though they are university classmates, they have never exchanged a single word, so he needs a good excuse to spend time with her. Saraphina is currently looking at him with a deeply suspicious gaze. The pacing of this plot is completely off. In their past life, whenever she came to see him, Kalin completely gave her cold shoulder. She was the campus queen of Jiangchong University, with a line of guys chasing her, yet Kalin acted like he had absolutely zero interest in her whatsoever, which naturally piqued her curiosity. But in this life, Saraphina had made up her mind to never have even a slight connection with Kalin, ever. Again, she simply refused to experience all that pain and trauma a second time. Anyway, Kalin quickly spoke up, saying he was not used to eating with girls. Either, so they should help each other get used to it. They could not both stay single. For the rest of their lives, Kalin had made up his mind that he absolutely had to seize this perfect opportunity to officially win Saraphina over as his girlfriend as soon as possible. Saraphina's head was pounding as she wondered what was wrong with Kalin. Why was he acting like a clingy koala? Honestly, you can't blame her for trying to reject him. She told him her mother was extremely strict, and if she found out about them, she would totally overthink it. Kalin immediately suggested they just eat at her house instead. He pushed further, saying her house worked perfectly too, with absolutely no other option left. Saraphina had to agree to eat with him. After all, it was only one meal. It was not like Kalin would do anything to her. Once this meal was over, she planned to stay far away from him. Saraphina lowered her eyes deep in thought while Kalin was also secretly scheming in his own head. Suddenly, he remembered something strange. Just a moment ago, Saraphina had called him by his name. How did she know it? Kalin knowing her name was not surprising at all. After all, she was the legendary campus queen of Jiangchong University. What guy on campus did not know her? How could he not know the campus queen, even in his past life where he barely paid attention to those things? He still knew Saraphina was the undisputed school beauty. But Kalin was just a completely ordinary business student. How in the world did Saraphina even know his name? Could she already? Did she actually have a crush on him right now? Thinking about this, Kalin secretly rubbed his hands together in pure excitement. Tomorrow, during their lunch date, he absolutely had to find a way to test the waters, but at noon the next day he did not get to see Saraphina first. Instead, he ended up confronting her number one persistent suitor, Caldwell. This guy Caldwell and Saraphina had been classmates from elementary school all the way to university and even lived as neighbors, constantly chasing after her for years. In their past life, on the day Kalin and Saraphina married, he even crashed the wedding and caused a massive scene. Even after they married, he would randomly show up in their neighborhood, and even after Kalin died, he repeatedly proposed to Saraphina, claiming he wanted to take care of her. Too bad he only dared to act after Kalin died, and Saraphina still rejected him. Barnaby pointed Kalin out as the punk from class 6. He reported that he had already dug up all of Kalin's info for Caldwell. Caldwell smirked and immediately rolled up his sleeves, preparing to act like a hero. He walked right up to Kalin, asking if he was indeed the one named Kalin. He warned him to stay away from Saraphina, but Kalin asked if she was his older sister. That instantly triggered Caldwell, who yelled that Kalin was begging for a beating. Furious, Caldwell rolled up his sleeves and swung a fist straight at Kalin's handsome face, but just as Kalin prepared to dodge and fight back, he spotted Saraphina coming down the stairs. Seeing her, he quickly pulled back his hands. He decided to pull a classic trick to gain her sympathy, planning to let Caldwell punch him once. If Saraphina saw it, her heart would surely ache for him. She might even help him all the way to the infirmary and shower him with care. That way their relationship would level up at lightning speed. That was his master plan, but something completely unexpected happened instead. Just as Caldwell's fist got exactly 2.5 centimeters away from Kalin's face, his foot hilariously slipped, and he lost his balance. With a thud, he face-planted. Talk about instant karma. Kneeling directly in front of Kalin. Right at that moment, Saraphina walked over. Completely baffled, she stared at Caldwell kneeling on the ground in utter confusion and asked why he was kneeling, wondering if he did something unforgivable to him. Caldwell wanted to cry and find a hole to crawl into. Kalin just told her to ignore him and go eat, as he reached out his hand in front of Saraphina and naturally took her bag right out of her hands to hang it on his own arm, despite her saying she could carry it. Saraphina looked at the pink fluffy bunny dangling from her backpack. She felt that a cute bag hanging on a tall, imposing guy looked highly inappropriate, but when Saraphina reached out and touched Kalin's arm, she suddenly froze. His arm was incredibly solid and muscular. In her past life, she had definitely touched it. Every time Kalin was blackout drunk, she was the one supporting him all the way home, changing him out of his alcohol-reeking clothes. Not only had she touched him, but she had also secretly kissed him while he slept like a log. Of course, those were strictly limited to his forehead, cheeks and cheeks alone. As for his lips, she had thought about it, but she was just too shy. Asking why her face was so red, he placed his hand on Saraphina's forehead, well, now she was totally done for. Not only did Saraphina's face turn red, but her ears and neck flushed crimson after snapping back to reality. She hastily took 2 steps back to maintain a safe distance. From him, the sun is pretty strong. It is so hot, she stuttered as she spoke, her tiny heart uncontrollably beating at double speed, thinking to herself, what on earth was she doing? Yesterday he was sending her his handsome selfies and sending her goodnight texts, and now he is acting all intimately close to her. This was absolutely not the Kalin she knew from her past life. Concurring that the sun was strong, he tilted his head and glanced at the sun in the sky. He offered to take her to a restaurant with a pretty nice vibe, promising she would absolutely love the clean and delicious dishes. After promising that she would love it, he walked over to the sun-facing side, using his 183-centimeter frame to protect her. At first, Saraphina did not even notice this detail. Later, she finally realized she had been walking entirely inside his shadow. At first, she thought it was just a coincidence, but when she walked faster, he walked faster. When she walked slower, he intentionally slowed his pace down, doing everything possible to keep her walking in his shadow. Seriously, how smooth can one guy get? Perplexed, she sneakily lifted her eyes to peek at him, seeing the youth standing tall under the sunlight, radiating a sense of absolute security. Announcing they had arrived, he stopped in his tracks, turned around, and saw Saraphina's face was even redder now. Sure, the sun was blazing, but it could not possibly be that hot right now. She stared at the restaurant in front of her, looking completely dazed. She used to come to this restaurant all the time, absolutely loving the food. He brought her here, but he could not have known in advance, right? Impossible. It had to be a coincidence, telling her to stop baking in the sun. He naturally grabbed Saraphina's hand and led her inside the restaurant, finding a quiet corner to sit before handing the menu over to Saraphina, telling her to order whatever she wanted on his treat. Saraphina pushed the menu back to him. Then he ordered pickled mustard greens fish, causing Saraphina to suddenly freeze because Kalin actually did not even like pickled fish, which happened to be her absolute favorite dish, calling out lotus root as the next dish. Saraphina blinked. He knew all the dishes she liked, but there was no mention of lotus root in her public preferences. Actually, wait. This was a dish she loved. He added honey-glazed jujube sweet potato balls, hand-roasted duck, vegetarian ham, and Crucian carp soup, rattling them off all in one breath. At this moment, Saraphina was completely dumbfounded. These dishes were literally all her favorites. Wait, how did he actually know? After spacing out for a few minutes, Saraphina really could not hold back and asked how he knew she liked eating those dishes. But how could he possibly not know? In their past life after he died, for some unknown reason, he could only follow Saraphina, like a magnetic pull wherever she went. He had followed her everywhere, realizing everything he missed while he was alive, but after dying and staying by her side 24/7, watching her eat, live, and travel, it became impossible for him not to know. Of course, if he blurted out this respawn business, she would never believe him anyway. A blind guess, he claimed, but Saraphina's face clearly showed she did not believe him. Guessing one dish right was just a coincidence, but guessing an entire table of dishes, no way. Right? Talk about impossible odds. Still, if he did not want to speak, fine, she distracted herself with her phone. He leaned closer, right in front of her face, insisting his luck was just simply off the charts these past 2 days. If she doubted him, he would take her to do a test later. She asked what kind. He told her she would know soon, acting all mysterious. Right then, the food they ordered finally arrived. He offered her a piece of fish, moving his chopsticks to place the slice in her bowl. Saraphina sat stunned. In her past life, they had been married for years, yet he had never once served her food. Back then, she secretly fantasized in her heart that he would suddenly notice how good she was and treat her like a normal husband should, yet right up until he died, he never treated her well. Remembering this, Saraphina's emotions suddenly went slightly out of control, the corners of her eyes turning red as she asked what was wrong with him. Sensing her shift in mood, he immediately asked with concern, but she claimed it was just sand in her eye, struggling to calm the turbulent emotions in her heart. He immediately offered to blow it out. For her, he stood up, leaning over to close the distance. Seeing him actually prepare to blow into her eye, Saraphina's face instantly flushed fiery Read her reflex pushing her to dodge backward. Don't move, his tone carried a slightly domineering edge, making Seraphina's tiny heart do absolute backflips. Only that he even pinched her chin, tilting her face up to make it easier for him to blow. With every breath he blew, her fluttering eyelashes like delicate butterfly wings would twitch slightly. Seeing this made his heart completely captivated. Meanwhile, the one whose mind was also running wild was Seraphina. Right now, her entire face flushed red like a perfectly ripe autumn persimmon. Seriously, she is too adorable. He stared unblinkingly, thinking that this girl was 80% crushing on him already. She was simply too shy to say it. A confession was better left for him to make. He just needed the right moment. All right, she said. Her eye was fine, swatting his hand away. Her rapidly beating heart felt like it would pop straight out of her throat in the very next second. Right now, her mind was a chaotic, buzzing mess. Ever since yesterday, his behavior had made it harder and harder for her to read him. Things had definitely not played out like this in their past life. After finishing the meal, she just wanted to escape back to school. If she kept staying around him like this, she feared she might start having delusional hopes, delusions that he actually had feelings for her. In her past life, she stayed by his side constantly, hoping that he would eventually catch feelings for her, but in the end, it was just nothing but a hopeless pipe dream. Luckily, she got to reincarnate, and she absolutely refused to let this new life turn out like her past one, meaning she had to stay far, far away from him. Then she mentions their sketching class this afternoon, claiming she needs to head back early to prepare. Seraphina barely takes a single step before he reaches out and grabs her hand firmly. He has zero intention of letting go. Did she already forget what he told her during lunch? He reminds her his luck has been insane lately, since she did not believe him. He insists on pulling her along to run a quick test. A few minutes later, he leads Seraphina right in front of a jewelry store. She asks why he brought her here, completely overwhelmed with confusion, but he just tells her to look. He points to a promotional banner by the entrance, showing a massive lucky draw. The grand prize gets you any item in the store for free. That's completely impossible to win. Just look at how massive that raffle box is. Plus, each eye only gets one single draw. Not to mention, these massive prizes are usually just rigged for the staff. Seraphina is convinced it is a scam, so she does not believe he can pull it. Let's bet. He proposes a little wager. If he actually wins, she has to give him a kiss. Hearing this, Seraphina freezes, staring at him with utter, mind-boggled disbelief. He has to be joking. Why would he want her to kiss him? He is probably just teasing. Yes, that must be it. With that thought, a hint of sadness creeps into her eyes as she asks what happens if he loses. Then he will just have to kiss her instead, his eyes locking directly onto her lips. Onto Seraphina's red lips, which are gorgeous to look incredibly sweet, even when she is not smiling. They look kissable. Seraphina rolls her eyes, him telling him to stop talking nonsense and just take a ticket. She still needs to get back to class. He teases her, asking if she is really that eager. He rolls up his sleeves and confidently reaches into the box to draw. Seraphina checks her phone, noting they only have half an hour left before her class begins. They cannot afford to waste another second. Right at that moment, he shoves the drawn paper slip right in front of her face, telling her to open it. Seraphina sighs with a flat expression, but quickly unfolds the paper anyway. She is fully prepared to smugly explain why winning this is completely and utterly impossible. The words are right at the tip of her tongue when she sees the result. Written on the paper are 3 massive words, grand prize, and just like that, Seraphina's eyes widen into perfect circles. She simply cannot believe what her own eyes are showing her. He actually won it, looking at her adorably dumbfounded face. He cannot hold back, reaching his hand out to gently ruffle the hair on her head. See, he told her his luck is absolutely on fire lately. Right now, Seraphina is completely trapped in a state of total shock, completely failing to notice that he is currently petting her head. He urges her to stop zoning out and go pick her prize. Classes about to start, he ushers her to the prize section where the items. The prize display is pretty limited, only about a dozen specific models. Seraphina asks who he is picking it for, not waiting for his answer. Is he giving it to his aunt? Kalin looks straight at her. He tells her he is giving it to his wife. Her pupils instantly dilate. What does he mean? Kalin laughs, saying he is teasing. He is picking it for her. He realizes her micro-expressions are cute. Seriously adorable. The more Kalin looks at her, the more he likes her. Seraphina protests that she does not want it since they are not close. Yet her heart is doing absolute somersaults. His words are easily misinterpreted. First he claims he is picking it for his wife, now for her. If she does some basic rounding, does that mean his wife is her? She was his wife in their past life, but definitely not right now. While Seraphina's mind is a total chaotic mess, Kalin calls the sales clerk. He asks to see a ring from the display case, choosing this one. Saraphina stares at the ring in his hand, wondering why he chose it. Does Kalin already have someone he likes? Is that why he ignored her before? A sudden, sharp stabbing pain hits her heart as she thinks she finally understands. No wonder he was always so cold to her back then. Turns out he already had someone he secretly loved in his heart. He never mentioned it to anyone. Honestly, Kalin is going way too far. This is even worse than before, dragging her along to pick a ring. For some other girl, thinking about it, Seraphina's eyes grow quite damp. Her chest hurts so much she can barely breathe. She wants to run. But Kalin suddenly reaches out and grabs her hand. If he has another girl, why grab her hand before she can pull away? She watches as Kalin slides the ring directly onto her finger. She completely freezes, staring blankly at the band sitting on her finger. Her brain completely short-circuits. Wasn't he giving this to another girl? Why would he put it on her instead? Kalin asks if she likes it. He looks at her hand, remembering how she died over a ring before. She was hit by a truck. She reflexively says she likes it. But she immediately starts shaking her head in panic. She insists she cannot accept this and tries to slide it off. But Kalin steps right in and snatches her hand back into his grasp. He says it is for girls. If she won't take it, who else gets it? Give it to his sister. No, that is definitely inappropriate. Give it to his mom. His dad would definitely get the wrong idea. Well, Kalin had a simple reason. This ring had the highest price. Since it is free, they obviously have to grab the most expensive item. Seraphina finally understands, so it is not actually about the ring itself. It was purely because it was the most expensive prize on the list. And here she was, foolishly thinking he wanted to gift her a ring. If she doesn't accept it, he says he will just throw it away. Seraphina calls him a massive spendthrift. He finally wins a big prize. And is just going to toss it. Kalin just smiles, acting pretty casual. The boy realized he was a bit of a prodigal, so he needed someone to keep him in check. He stared at Seraphina with absolute affection, the distance between them shrinking by the second. They stood incredibly close, so close she could look deep into his eyes. Seeing her own reflection triggered a wave of wild blushes. Her heart raced at his closeness. Honestly, can you blame her for blushing so hard? It was the perfect chance, a golden opportunity he could grab. But today was only their second day of knowing each other, making him hesitate. Would a sudden confession scare her away? Perhaps waiting for the upcoming Kikshi festival was smarter. That special day was coming up fast, and he decided to make his move then. He wanted to plan a romantic confession she would never forget. It would be a memory to cherish forever as the two walked side by side toward the campus gates. He insisted on walking Seraphina all the way to the Fine Arts Department building. She urged him to go. You will be late, she warned. Clutching her ring, she asked what he forgot. His eyes locked onto her lips, and she turned her head in confusion. She realized what he wanted and remembered the bet she had lost. A sweet kiss was the mandatory price she had to pay for losing. Sure, they had kissed before, but only while he was fast asleep. Doing it right out in the open like this was just too embarrassing. Class was starting. He leaned his face right toward her mouth. Her heart beat at triple speed as he drew closer. She completely froze, prompting him to start teasing her about backing out. He asked if she was really planning to back out of their bet. Would the majestic campus queen of Zhongchang University break her promise? That did it, and Seraphina stood on her tiptoes with eyes squeezed shut. She planted a quick, soft kiss right on the corner of his mouth. Red as a cooked tomato, she covered her face and fled. He stood completely stunned for a moment, slowly reaching up to touch his cheek. Smiling, he knew he only asked for a simple kiss. Never did he expect her to actually kiss him right there. Clearly, she already had a massive crush on him, and he loved it. His upcoming Kikshi Festival confession was going to be a total success. The bell rang. In a phenomenal mood, he strolled toward class. Humming a cheerful tune on his walk, he had absolutely no idea what was waiting. Behind a tree, Caldwell watched, and trust me, he was absolutely furious. Witnessing the romantic exchange crystal clear made his blood boil. Seeing the girl he adored taking the initiative to kiss another man drove him mad. Caldwell wanted to smash his rival face first into the ground. An oath of vengeance was sworn to make him pay dearly. When school ended, he kept acting like a clingy koala, sticking right by her. Their long shadows stretched and intertwined under the warm, orange sky. Everything around them felt incredibly, breathtakingly beautiful. Saraphina looked at him, amazed by his total shift in attitude. She wondered if the heavens looked back on her tragic past life. Perhaps they granted this second chance just to show her true love. He wanted to make things right if she had actually guessed the truth. If he genuinely liked her now, should she even accept his feelings? She was torn, her emotions were a complete mess. On one side, she could not stop her heart from fluttering for him. But having been deeply traumatized by him in her past life, she feared history repeating. Suddenly he asked where the ring was, her thoughts shattered. He had noticed much earlier that she was not wearing it. He silently wondered to himself if she simply hated the design. It was inconvenient, she claimed. He immediately questioned her. He asked if she just found it ugly, but she quickly protested that it was beautiful. She insisted she really liked it, so he told her she should wear it. He had given her that ring with a very specific, possessive intention. He wanted everyone to know she was officially off the market. But then she pulled the ring out from beneath her collar, wearing it as a necklace. He told her that was a total waste and offered to put it on her properly. With those words, he reached his hands toward her neck to unhook the chain. She panicked. What on earth was he trying to do? Her face flushed bright red as his tall, broad frame towered over her. With his arms looped around her, she felt completely enveloped in his warmth. The sheer closeness of his embrace sent her heart racing. He softly warned her not to move, lest he accidentally scratch her. His dominant yet gentle voice made her feel absolutely helpless. She obediently stopped moving, letting him fumble around with her necklace. He looked down, admiring how incredibly docile and obedient she was acting. Her face pressed near his chest, the blushing grew worse. She knew she had to pull herself together before losing control. Meanwhile, he silently worried that his true, playful intentions were about to be exposed. He claimed the clasp was caught on her clothes, telling her to hold still. Of course he was totally lying, classic straight face. He had unhooked it long ago, just wanting to prolong the sweet moment. Saraphina anxiously whispered, was he still not finished yet? She pursed her lips, feeling like she might actually burst from embarrassment. He told her it was almost finished, urging her to lean in closer. He claimed he could not see, while she complained they were already too close. Steeling herself, she took a tiny, hesitant half-step closer into his space. There was barely a single centimeter of space left between them. But before she could even process their closeness, he suddenly wrapped his arms around her and pulled her close. Instantly, a wildly beating heart echoed in the silence. It was impossible to tell whose heart was pounding harder in that moment. He could smell the faint, sweet medicinal fragrance radiating from her skin. He had to take action now, otherwise he was no man. Taking a deep, heavy breath to steady himself, he made up his mind. He leaned down and softly planted a kiss right on her earlobe. Immediately, he felt her entire body go completely stiff in his arms. Kalin freezes up completely like a statue, feeling her innocent, amateur reaction. He finds it incredibly cute, but he knows exactly when to back off. Reluctantly, Kalin lets go of Saraphina, announcing that it is finally undone. Saraphina stares back in a complete daze. It takes a solid 2.5 minutes for her brain to reboot. Right after that, her pupils start to dilate. She stammers in disbelief, asking if he really just kissed her. She bites her lower lip, reflexively covering her tingling ear with her hand. The skin is still numb and tingling, as if shocked by electricity. Kalin acts like he just accidentally bumped into her, playing it cool. He wears a perfectly righteous gentleman face while spouting absolute nonsense. He wonders if he was too impulsive and somehow scared her away. His internal mental age is that of an old uncle, but Saraphina is so young here. She's just a college freshman in this timeline, barely 18 years old. Impulse is a dangerous thing. Saraphina turns away, admitting she misunderstood him. He wonders what she is thinking, since he was only trying to untangle her necklace. In their past life, they lived under the same roof for years. He never once crossed the line or tried to take advantage of her back then. So why would he start doing something slazy in this current life? He offers to help her put the ring on, reaching out for her hand. But Saraphina pulls back immediately, saying she does not want to wear it. Instead of putting it on her finger, she slides it back onto the necklace. Kalin realizes he was way too eager and messed things up. Now that she is mad, he has to find a clever way to coax her. But right then, a sharp, angry glare hits him from the shadows. He immediately turns his head to scan the surrounding area. Spotting nobody suspicious, he hears Saraphina ask what is wrong. Kalin quietly admits that he felt someone staring directly at him just now. She looks at his incredibly handsome face and mutters a quiet reply. With a face like that, she whispers, "Of course people are staring." Kalin asks what she said, making her panic instantly. She panics internally, wondering how on earth he actually heard her. Kalin insists he definitely heard her, asking if she was talking trash. He asks if she was secretly talking trash behind his back. She quickly denies it, but he dares her to swear on it. Their childish bickering still gives off a very sweet and warm vibe. Not far away, we have a very jealous Caldwell fuming with rage. His eyes are practically bulging out of his head at Kalin. That scumbag actually dared to mess with his perfect goddess. What hurts even more is seeing Saraphina blush so shyly. He has never seen her make that kind of face before. Even though they grew up together, she was always cold. Her cold attitude toward him is a total night and day difference. Compared to Kalin, it is a night and day difference. Barnaby whispers that everything is set up to make their move. Caldwell tells him to move fast, determined to make her give up. That absolute scumbag, Caldwell grits his teeth so hard they almost grind to dust. Right then, Saraphina and Kalin Kins step out of a nearby pharmacy. Suddenly, two girls charge straight at them from both left and right. They whine that Kalin Kins is naughty for ignoring them for 2.5 days. The one in the crop top complains in a whiny, sickeningly sweet tone. She starts playfully pounding her tiny fists right against his chest. The other girl quickly chimes in, saying she missed him to death. Clad in tiny hot pants, she pouts her lips and demands a kiss. Meanwhile, Caldwell watches from the shadows with a smug, villainous smirk. Oh, this is going to be incredibly satisfying to watch go down. But surprisingly, Saraphina steps up and tells the girls they have the wrong guy. She stares down the two girls with a remarkably calm, icy gaze. Kalin Kins is absolutely stunned that she is actually stepping up to defend him. He was just panicking over how to explain this, and yet here she is. The crop top girl snaps, demanding to know who she is. She demands to know if Saraphina is Kalin Kins's new sidepiece. Hands on her hips, she glares. Kalin knows he must clear the air. If Saraphina misunderstands, he will never be able to clear his name. He would look like a total playboy, branded a liar forever. He quickly tells Saraphina that he honestly has no idea who they are. Saraphina softly nods, replying that she believes him completely. She knows his true character, regardless of what these strange girls are doing. Hearing this, his heart practically melts into warm soup. He knew she liked him, but this level of trust is insane. It is the kind of unconditional faith that would touch anyone deeply. Kalin Kins places his hands on her shoulders, looking into her eyes. He thanks her from the very bottom of his heart, staring at her like that is almost too much for her to handle. Blushing, Saraphina quickly averts her gaze and gently brushes his hands away. Meanwhile, the two other girls are completely sick of this public romance. They feel completely choked by this heavy dose of public couple energy. Talk about getting a front row seat to some serious, awkward romance. The crop top girl demands to know what gives her the right to hog him. She shoves Saraphina hard. As Saraphina stumbles backward, Kalin Kins instantly catches her waist. He softly asks if she is okay, and she quietly nods. But in the next split second, his expression turns instantly freezing cold. He demands to know who gave them permission to touch his woman. Hearing those words, Saraphina gasps softly, her eyes widening in shock. She can only stare blankly at his broad shoulders. His fierce silhouette seems permanently etched against the evening sky. His sharp features give her an incredible sense of security. Her heart starts racing wildly like a panicked deer. He fiercely demands they apologize to her right now. She is utterly terrified. They turned around and bolted. The girl in hot pants was also terrified he would cause trouble, so she scrambled away too. He yelled at them to stop, but it was Fine, and Seraphina told him to just let them go as she grabbed his arm. Right after grabbing his arm, she realized it felt incredibly solid now. Plus, when he had pulled her into his arms just a moment ago, they were pressed together so tightly she had practically melted right into him. She had felt his hard muscles, reminding her of those photos of his abs. She wondered if those pictures were actually his, and he noticed her eyes drifting. He caught her staring and immediately remembered the photo incident from before. "Did you not believe my 8-pack last time?" he offered to show her right now. With that, he reached down, fully prepared to yank his shirt right up. This startled Seraphina so much that she spun around and sprinted away. He called out, asking why she was running as she booked it down the street. He watched her escape with a confused face, then looked down at his own body. A sudden realization hit him. He was totally acting like a massive creep. He was acting weird toward a young girl. Meanwhile, Caldwell watched from the shadows. His face twisting into a furious, bruised purple, he cursed under his breath. It was absolutely despicable. Barnaby suggested they just rush out and jump him. Caldwell warned him to keep that as an absolute last resort instead. Barnaby asked for other plans, noting their classes were playing basketball tomorrow. Once they were on the court, Caldwell planned to completely humiliate him. He would crush him in front of Seraphina, though Barnaby wondered if he would even play. Caldwell let out a crooked, villainous smirk of absolute overconfidence. Not play, that would not be his choice to make. Meanwhile, Seraphina had sprinted all the way home and stared at her face in the mirror, red as a fresh apple, even though she was someone who had reincarnated from her 30s. Regardless of her past life or this current one, she had never actually been in a real relationship, remembering those overly sweet moments with him. Just now, Seraphina's face blushed even harder, the red spreading all the way down her neck and behind her ears. Her entire brain was completely hijacked by thoughts of him, unable to understand why he was acting like this. It was literally nothing like their past life, and she felt like a total mess. This feeling made her both hate and love it, right as she was. Zoning out, her phone buzzed with a message from him, asking what she was busy with and saying he wanted to hear her voice. Her breathing turned slightly hot and heavy. She spent 2 seconds calming down, then pursed her red lips and started typing a reply, asking what was wrong and if he had something heavy on his mind. She wondered if she was just overthinking it. But she felt like his mood was genuinely a bit off. Actually, her guess was spot on. After he got home to give his little sister her birthday present, his memories instantly flashed back to his past life, when he suddenly died from that illness. She threw herself onto his coffin, crying and screaming in absolute agony. That was the exact moment he realized how much she cared about an older brother who could not even remember her birthday. He felt guilty and sad, texting that he simply missed her and wanted to hear her. Her voice, Kalin actually admitted he missed her, and Seraphina pressed her phone tight against her chest, her breathing turning completely frantic. Her chest rose and fell. Kalin noticed she was taking forever. A pretty bitter look crossed his face. No wonder girls called guys trash. He was the living proof. In his past life, she took care of every little detail, but he completely ignored her. He stayed totally blind to her love back then, and now he is regretting it deeply, desperate to hold her but unable to reach her. Checking the time, it was almost 11 p.m. It was way too late to keep bothering her now. Just as he was about to set his phone down, a sudden notification chimed. Seraphina had sent a voice message asking Kalin what on earth was wrong. Did something bad happen, she asked. Her voice sounded sweet. Hearing that beautiful, gentle tone, his stormy mood cleared up instantly. He cheered up right away, thinking about how his wife treated him the absolute best. He practically bounced off the walls, filled with a sudden rush of pure adrenaline. He revived instantly, replying that nothing bad had happened. He was just having a bit of insomnia and really wanted to hear her beautiful voice. Why on earth did he want to hear her voice? Seraphina wondered, nervously picking at the little rhinestones on her phone case one by one. Right now, her heart felt completely restless, as if kitten claws were scratching inside her. Her fingers just could not stop picking at the rhinestones. No way, she thought. She could not let him keep controlling the rhythm of their conversation like this. Her heart was pounding so hard she felt lightheaded. To change the subject, Seraphina quickly typed out a new message, asking him to wish his sister a happy birthday for her. Kalin stared at the message, completely and utterly confused. How did she know today was his sister's birthday? He had never mentioned it. Was she also someone who had reincarnated the moment that thought hit him? Kalin immediately dismissed it because the chances of a single reincarnation happening was incredibly low. A double reincarnation was basically impossible, even in web novels. He had never read about anything like that. The odds had to be practically zero. Ruling out that wild possibility, there was only one explanation left. With that in mind, Kalin quickly typed out a voice message to ask her. He asked how she knew today was his sister's birthday when he only mentioned it was coming up. He never told her the exact date. Hearing this, Saraphina gasped, realizing she was getting completely dragged into his pace. In her panic to change the subject, she forgot something pretty critical. At this point in time, she was not supposed to know his sister's actual birthday at all. How was she going to talk her way out? But before she could make up an excuse, Kalin beat her to the punch. Another message popped up. Did he figure out she had actually reincarnated? She felt incredibly nervous, but the actual message was nothing like that. Kalin playfully asked if she was secretly in love with him, investigating his life behind his back. Saraphina froze. This was completely out of left field. She texted back immediately, telling him he was way too full of himself. Why would she ever crush on him? But Kalin just laughed, confident as ever. Saraphina muttered out loud that he was clearly just a massive narcissist. But to be fair, Kalin really was handsome, and now even more so. During the day, she could not stop stealing secret glances at him. His skin was genuinely so perfect that it almost rivaled her own. Has he been using some new skincare products lately? Seeing this message, Kalin just grinned. This girl clearly thought he was handsome, but refused to admit it. Classic girls, always saying the opposite of what they actually feel deep down. They say no with their mouths while their hearts are secretly begging. Want to know? Call him hubby, and he will tell her in her dreams. Phone off. After firing off 3 rapid-fire messages, Saraphina angrily shut it down. She muttered to herself, did he really think she cared about calling him hubby? After snapping back to reality, she realized it was all Kalin's fault. He had nothing better to do than send her those weird, flirty messages, saying things that made her blush, her heart race, and easily misunderstand. If not for him, her newly bought phone case would be intact. Instead, it was destroyed. Chatting with Kalin was just too dangerous for cases. No more chatting, time to sleep. Saraphina threw herself onto the bed. She was slightly annoyed, pulling up a corner of the blanket habitually. She clamped it between her legs, which always gave her a massive sense of security, but lying there, Saraphina tossed and turned, completely unable to sleep. She had turned her phone off, but what if Kalin sent a message? What if he could not sleep either, just waiting for her to reply? We all know that overthinking spiral. Her brain felt like a tangled mess. Like a ball of yarn, the more she tried to untangle it, the messier it got. Whatever, right before dying in her past life, she had already made up her mind to have zero connection with him. If he sent messages, whatever. That was his problem. Whatever happens, happens. Saraphina grabbed a pillow and slammed it over her own face. Lights out. 10 minutes later, Saraphina turned her phone back on and opened up their chat window. Sure enough, Kalin had sent new messages, 2 voice memos actually. Both were exactly 1 second long. What did he send? Saraphina curiously tapped. The first voice memo, he said good night, even though he was an 18-year-old kid. There was a certain magnetism to his voice. Hearing it made Saraphina feel like her ears were tingling. After catching her breath for a solid minute, Saraphina finally calmed down. There was still one more voice memo left. What did he say? She reached out and tapped the play button. Baby, the phone literally slipped right out of her hand onto the bed. Sheets. Saraphina sat there, completely frozen in shock for quite a while before snapping back to her senses. Her heart hammered as her pupils dilated wide. What did Kalin just call her? Baby? No, that was completely impossible. He definitely would not call her that. She must have misheard. Saraphina picked up the phone and replayed the voice memo again. Baby. She tapped it again. Baby. She tapped once more. It really was baby. She did not mishear. He actually called her baby. Saraphina yanked the blanket all the way over her head to hide, otherwise she was terrified her loud squeals would wake the house. Her neighbors definitely heard. That night, Saraphina barely got a wink of sleep. Her brain was flooded with his voice, baby, 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 echoing on repeat. Kalin, however, slept like an absolute baby, completely passed out. He even dreamed about her calling him hubby. It was only a matter of time. He refused to believe he could fail if he shamelessly threw away his pride. Otherwise, that ridiculously handsome face of his would go to complete waste. Not to mention his insanely shredded physique the very next day. Right after class ended, Caldwell marched right up to talk trash to his face. Caldwell sneers, Kalin, our classes are playing a basketball game in a bit. Get on the court and we will settle this once and for all. The loser backs off, seriously, who treats a girl like some betting chip. Kalin just looked up at Caldwell, completely unfazed by his threats. The sharp angles of his face radiated a wild, untamed arrogance. Caldwell barked, you are just too chicken. But cheap reverse psychology does not work on Kalin, she is a human being. Caldwell snaps, who is treating her like a chip, stop exaggerating things. He just wants to know if Kalin has the guts to face him. Since his reincarnated self has elite basketball skills, why would he refuse? Kalin agrees, fine, but if you lose, stay away from her for good. No more harassing her, Caldwell just laughs. He bursts into maniacal laughter, you literally just said doing this. Is treating her like a bet, so what are you doing right now? Kalin calmly replies, I am different, this is about her best interest. He wants to stop a pesky fly from buzzing around her all day. Caldwell gets so furious his fingertips shake as he stammers, you are dead. Just wait, we will see if you can act this arrogant on court. With a dismissive wave, Caldwell storms off. Meanwhile, in the classroom. Over in the fine arts classroom, Saraphina is completely zoning out. She is not just daydreaming, her brain is replaying last night on loop. She keeps remembering Kalin saying he missed her and called her his baby. The more she thinks about it, the redder her face gets. She wants to stop. But she honestly does not know what is wrong with herself. It is like she is possessed. His magnetic voice is stuck in her head. Is she really completely helpless against him, especially after deciding? She was absolutely not going to like him anymore, just then. Her head hurts as the room erupts into a massive commotion. Out in the hallway, groups of female students are running past. Bria looks out in complete confusion and asks what is going on. A classmate asks, do you guys not know there is a game between Computer Science Class 5 and Business Class 5? Saraphina is not that. The class your childhood friend Caldwell is in, his skills are insane. Did he not train at a professional camp? Saraphina nods. His uncle is a real basketball coach, so they should absolutely go watch. Another student says excitedly, let us go, we should all head over. Kalin from Business Class 6 is playing too, so everyone is rushing out. She wondered why she had never paid attention to him. He was getting more and more handsome, easily rivaling their school's official. Campus heartthrob, seeing Kalin there too, Saraphina blurted out in surprise. She had watched this game in her past life, in fact, just last night. She had received a text from Caldwell telling her to go watch. She remembered very clearly that Kalin never participated in this basketball game. Speaking of which, after respawning, it felt like many things were just completely off. She had thought about this problem but could not make sense of it. Was it possible the world she was in was not her actual past life? Maybe it was a parallel universe. She just could not figure it out. Suddenly, Bria asked if Kalin was there too, thinking back to the other day in the infirmary when Kalin held onto Saraphina's hand and refused to let go. Instantly furious, Bria scoffed at his looks, telling Saraphina they were not going. Saraphina nodded, thinking the exact same thing. She had decided, setting aside the events of the past few days, from this moment on she would stay lucid and totally rational. If she said she was not going, she was not going. She was cutting ties with Kalin completely. If he came looking for her again, she would put up an icy, distant attitude and completely ignore him. Saraphina made a massive resolve, but her eyes had a mind of their own, involuntarily drifting toward the window. She could not look. Saraphina forcibly yanked her head back to draw instead. Saraphina pulled out her sketchbook and started drawing. Just 2 minutes later, she ended up drawing a basketball. She kept staring at it in her sketchbook, watching until it seemed to start moving. In her mind, Kalin was dribbling the ball and preparing to shoot. Suddenly, Saraphina pushed her chair back and stood up. Bria looked up, asking what she was doing. She claimed she was heading to the bathroom, but ended up at the basketball court. The game had not started yet, and the teams were warming up. Pre-game warm-ups. With a single glance, Saraphina instantly spotted Kalin on the court wearing a red jersey, looking handsome, radiant, and completely eye-catching. Without a doubt, he was the center of attention with his good looks, incredible body, and unique sunny charm radiating from head to toe. It made Seraphina blush uncontrollably as her heart raced, and Kalin as if. They shared telepathy, stopped his warm-up routine, and scanned the vast crowd of spectators. After sweeping the area, his gaze finally locked directly onto Seraphina. She had come to watch him play, so he simply could not lose. Just as he was about to raise his hand and wave to Seraphina, Caldwell excitedly trotted over to her, completely blocking their line of sight. Caldwell proudly claimed she had come to watch him play, deliberately showing off right in front of Seraphina, raising his arms to flex his muscles. Seraphina quickly glanced at them, finding them far less impressive than Kalin's. Seraphina tilted her head, looking past Caldwell to see Kalin waving at her, so she followed suit, raising her hand to give a little wave back to him. Caldwell followed her gaze, turned his head and saw Kalin, catching the two of them making eye contact. Just past him, Caldwell was so incredibly ticked off he practically coughed up blood. He stood right in the dead center, wondering why they treated him like invisible air. There was nothing more infuriating than this. On the sidelines, the watching girls were totally swooning over Kalin. It was just endless gasps and cheering from them. "Look at number 11, they squealed. "He is so incredibly handsome. Does he have a girlfriend?" "Who cares if he does? If he has one," they whispered. "We will just make her his ex." Hearing those thirsty comments from the crowd, Caldwell's mouth twitched with deep annoyance. Does being handsome buy your dinner? If it were scientifically possible, he desperately wanted to rip Kalin's face off and staple it right onto his own head. Outside the court, Seraphina looked left, looked right, pouting in frustration. Whether in past lives or this one, Kalin remained an absolute magnet. He was just ridiculously attractive, a look that drove girls completely wild. Staring at the young man's flawless skin glowing under the warm sunlight, Seraphina felt a tiny, petty wave of jealousy wash over her in that exact moment. Kalin was just being so incredibly stingy. She had previously asked him about his skincare routine, and he literally demanded she call him hubby first. She absolutely refused to do it. Meanwhile, Caldwell noticed Seraphina staring unblinkingly at Kalin right now. Pure jealousy set his brain on fire. His knuckles cracked loudly as his hands clenched tight. "Seraphina," he muttered to himself, "I will absolutely win this game. Just watch." After saying that, Caldwell turned his head, firing a glare packed with pure hatred at Kalin. He fully intended to use that basketball to brutally smash Kalin's annoying face in. Then the whistle blew and the game was on. Kalin dominated the court with flashy moves, drawing absolute waves of screams and cheers. From the crowd, watching him, Seraphina lost herself in romantic daydreams once again. The girls right next to her were squealing like crazy. Honestly, things were getting wild, but nobody expected Caldwell to act like a desperate animal. He waited for the exact moment. Kalin jumped up for a slam dunk and forcefully reached out his hand, directly yanking the young man's jersey down. Blindsided, Kalin was dragged straight down, crashing hard onto the wooden floor. Caldwell watched him curl up, clutching his leg in intense pain. A smirk of pure, ugly satisfaction spread across the guy's face. "Serves you right," he thought. "That is what you get for messing with me." Suddenly, a sharp, angry female voice cut through the air. Seraphina had seen Kalin crash and bleed, and her mind went entirely blank. She frantically rushed to his side, asking him if he was okay. Her eyes welled up with tears as Kalin gritted his teeth and insisted he was fine. She looked down at his bleeding knee, her heart jumping right into her throat. Deep worry showed on her face as she looked over his painful injury. He was clearly hurting, yet still trying to play it cool. She offered to help. She wrapped her arms around his waist, taking most of his weight. Kalin had not expected getting hurt to come with such special perks. This pain was absolutely worth it. He quietly hid his inner excitement, keeping Seraphina from noticing. He just needed to play up the drama a bit. That way she would feel even worse for him. But as he schemed, Caldwell suddenly stepped forward, blocking their path completely. Caldwell snaps, demanding to know why she is treating Kalin so well just because of his pretty face. She cannot let this pretty boy fool her. He is a wolf in sheep clothing. He is rotten to the core. Caldwell is anxious and furious. 5. Seraphina snaps back. Her chest heaves with absolute rage. She glares fiercely, yelling that Caldwell went too far by pulling Kalin's jersey. If his leg ends up fine, whatever, but if something is seriously wrong with him, she will never let him off the hook. Kalin watches her defend him so fiercely. Watching her furiously defend him, his heart swells, and he can barely hold back a secret snicker. He never expected this girl to have such a fiercely protective, cute, and angry side. The way she roars at Caldwell makes her look ready to pounce and fight him. She looks ready to fight to the death. The more Kalin thinks about it, the happier he feels. Although she keeps saying she does not like him, she is acting like he is family. She treats him like her family right now. Get lost, she screams at Caldwell. Saraphina explodes in fury. His knee is bleeding badly. His leg is still bleeding, and Caldwell has not even bothered to apologize. Instead, he called Kalin rotten. Kalin tries to calm her, saying it is just a scratch. It is fine, he says, but she instantly tells him to stop talking. She snaps at Kalin, asking why he is talking when he is clearly injured. She asks if he knows he needs to save his energy instead of speaking up. Why is he being so nice to Caldwell? In her past life, it was different. He never treated her this nicely before. She wonders if Caldwell is more important. With that thought, Saraphina mentally adds Caldwell to her absolute hate list. Caldwell notices her fierce gaze, but there is something else mixed with the anger. It is not just pure anger. He detects jealousy, which completely confuses him. He understands the anger, but has no idea why she would be jealous. Kalin agrees to listen. He promises to shut up, intentionally leaning his head super close to her. He breathes in the faint, sweet fragrance radiating from her skin. The more he smells her scent, the better it gets, until he feels totally addicted. Saraphina notices him leaning in. The older boy's side profile is pressed against her. His face is practically pressed against hers, making her think to herself. He must be hurt so badly that he has to lean his entire weight on her. Yet he still tries to act tough, treating her far too much like an outsider. Even though he literally called her baby last night, she still feels excluded. Clearly, he has not accepted her yet, which is incredibly annoying to her. In her frustration, she speeds up her pace, forgetting about his bleeding leg wound. Kalin misses a step and stumbles, a low, muffled groan escaping his lips. Apologizing for walking too fast, Saraphina turns her head and accidentally bumps her face. She bumps right into his lips. Wait, did that actually just happen? Saraphina's face instantly turns as red as a boiled shrimp, literally steaming. Kalin had been leaning against her this whole time, enjoying it. He only wanted to sneak a few close breaths, never expecting this happy accident. Once she recovers from the shock, her panicked eyes dart everywhere. Kalin reassures her that no one saw, touching his own lips gently. Saraphina catches his movement out of the corner of her eye, feeling humiliated. She instantly wants to dig a massive hole and bury herself alive. She's convinced he did that on purpose. It's absolutely infuriating if it wasn't for the fact that he was injured. She would have dropped him right on the floor. Meanwhile, back in the classroom, Bria is busy studying the highlighted exam. Topic Seraphina marked for her earlier. What's going on? It's been 20 minutes. Did her friend fall into the toilet? Just as Bria thinks this, a new notification pops up from the campus forum. Now, Bria is in absolute gossip queen. If there is tea on campus, she has to know it. But when she pulls out her phone, Bria is left completely stunned. The trending front page headline shows a massive, incredibly cozy photo of Seraphina supporting Kalin. Wait, didn't her friend go to the restroom? Why is she hanging out with Kalin, that pretty boy again? What the hell is going on? After Seraphina helps Kalin into the clinic, she frantically drags the doctor over, pleading for him to stop his bleeding immediately. She panics, telling the doctor to slow down before he hurts him. The doctor looks up with a deeply baffled expression, throwing a strange look at the panicked girl. Kalin speaks up to comfort her, saying it's just a tiny scratch, and she's making him seem like he's about to die. That single word triggers Seraphina's memories of their past life back when she first got the news of his death. Saying the sky fell on her is an understatement. Her entire world instantly turned pitch black, unable to believe that he had just left her like that. Back then, she abandoned everything and rushed to the hospital in a complete panic, only to see the white sheet pulled over his face. In that moment, she cannot hold back her overwhelming sorrow, bursting into agonizing sobs. She cannot accept the reality that he was dead. Falling to her knees, she begged the doctor, saying as long as he could save him, she would trade her own life to make it happen. Kalin keeps staring intently at Seraphina, watching her expression grow increasingly sad and deeply devastated, wondering if he said something wrong just now. He hesitantly calls out her name, but Seraphina is still completely drowned in the trauma of losing him. Her past life, she doesn't hear his voice at all. He frowns and reaches out to Grab her hand asking what is wrong, only when she is touched. By him does Seraphina snap back to reality, looking at the living. Breathing Kalin in front of her instead of a cold corpse, her emotions overflow like a broken dam. She throws herself directly into his arms. Sobbing, she calls him a jerk, asking who gave him permission to talk about dying. He won't die and must never leave. Her tears fall in massive drops, soaking right through his shirt in seconds. Kalin freezes in complete shock. What? Did she just say that he won't ever die? At this moment, a crazy, bold theory starts growing in his mind. Could she really be someone who regressed as well? He looks down at Seraphina, who is crying uncontrollably. In his arms, this scene gives him massive déjà vu of their past life, right after he suddenly died from illness. His soul had left his body, watching with his own eyes, as Seraphina held onto his cold body, crying until she was absolutely broken. It is a mirror image of the scene right in front of him. The more he thinks, the more Kalin thought about it, the more plausible his wild theory actually started to seem. But even that made no sense. If she remembered her past, how could she forgive him so easily? He still remembered everything so clearly. Back then, she wanted to completely cut ties. She swore that if they ever got a second chance, she would never fall in love with him again. That raw despair, that absolute finality, it was still burned into his memory. If she didn't regress, why say that? None of it made sense. Besides, her intense, emotional overreaction simply had zero logic to it. Meanwhile, Seraphina was still sobbing her heart out against his chest. Kalin let out a soft sigh, raising his hand to gently pat her back and comfort her like a crying child. But his gentle touch didn't calm her down. Instead, it only made her feel far more heartbroken and aggrieved, causing her to cry even louder. Just then, Bria was approaching the infirmary. When she heard those dramatic sobs, she panicked. That pretty boy Kalin must have actually bullied her friend to tears. Furious, Bria slammed the door open, ready to unleash absolute hell. But the angry words died in her throat when she saw Seraphina tightly clinging to Kalin and crying her eyes out. Faced with this, Bria immediately lost all her rage, standing completely frozen and utterly dumbfounded. Hearing the noise, Seraphina finally snapped out of it. She hurriedly pulled back, suddenly realizing how terribly compromising this whole situation looked. How could she lose control like that? She was acting incredibly weird. Worse yet, she was the one who initiated the hug, and Bria witnessed everything. Talk about major second-hand embarrassment. How was she ever going to explain this? Bria slowly walked over to her side, staring at her with pure bewilderment. She even reached out to feel her forehead, checking for a fever. Temperature was normal, but right now, Seraphina just wanted to vanish into thin air. Since she couldn't disappear, her next best option was to bolt right out of there. She turned and sprinted away, leaving Bria yelling for her to wait. Bria quickly chased after her out the door. Later, the texts Kalin sent to Seraphina went unanswered. Maybe she just needed time to calm down. It was only after dinner that she finally sent a quick text. The text read, "The doctor said your wound shouldn't touch water." Seeing this, Kalin felt an instant wave of relief, like rain after a 10-year drought. She clearly still cared. Seizing the moment, he decided to tease her a little. He texted back asking why she took so long, claiming he already showered and his leg hurt. Seraphina instantly panicked, texting back to ask if he had any common sense. He was hurt badly, so how could he possibly take a shower like that? Kalin replied that this was exactly why he needed someone to remind him. Then he sent a voice memo, asking if she would be that person. When Seraphina played it, her ears took 100 million points of critical damage. She claimed she didn't understand and wasn't stupid, trying to play it cool. Clearly, she was just trying to avoid giving a direct answer. In this situation, if a guy kept pushing, he would look like a certified idiot. Besides, a girl dodging the question usually means one of two things. No, a girl avoiding a direct answer usually means only two things. Perhaps she's just too shy to admit it, or maybe she is still figuring out her feelings. With that question hitting a total dead end, he smoothly decides to change the subject. He brings up something he had been dying to ask her the entire day. He asks what she really meant by her strange words back in the school infirmary. Hearing this, Seraphina freezes in sheer shock. She panics, wondering what she should even say next. She struggles while he stares at his phone. He carefully rubs his chin, trying to figure out how to handle this situation. He has suspected since earlier that Seraphina might also be a regressor. It sounds completely insane for two separate people to turn back time like this, pure sci-fi. Honestly, is a double regression actually possible here? Why should he be the only one? Why couldn't she return too? The world does not revolve around him. Right as he thinks this, a message from Saraphina finally lights up his screen. She texts back that he is overthinking, and it meant nothing. Clutching her shirt, she bites her lip and tries to stay calm. As long as she never admits it, there is no way anyone can prove it. He frowns, wondering if he really was just overthinking the entire situation. He looks back at everything that happened since his first day back. When she called out his name on day one, it felt highly suspicious. But without any real, concrete evidence, he could never be completely certain of anything. But honestly, why overthink it? Either way, she is still the same Saraphina. She will not change just because of some bizarre time travel business. In this new life, he is determined to protect her with everything he has. He wants to make up for every single mistake and painful regret from their past life. He texts her back to explain that he was simply worried after seeing her cry. Reading this message, Saraphina breathes a massive, visible sigh of relief. She realizes she was actually the only one stressing out over nothing this whole time. He only asked because he truly cared, not because of some crazy theory. She asks if his bad leg is fine. Thinking about his shower earlier, she gets a little annoyed with him again. Why does he never take care of himself? Even if she does not care, wouldn't others? He knows those others she mentioned must refer to his parents. Exactly his parents, it surely had 0% connection to her. He confesses that he lied about the shower, making her ask if teasing her is fun. Just as she gets annoyed and prepares to throw her phone away, he texts again. He sends a message saying he loves teasing her, and only her. Talk about smooth, Saraphina's face flushes deep red at his confession. She purses her lips, barely holding back a very shy smile. Her heart races as she texts him that he has really changed. He immediately clarifies that he is absolutely not just a smooth talker in general. These sweet words are meant for her ears alone, making her cringe. She buries her face in a pillow as her heart beats completely out of control. Suddenly, his next text arrives. He asks if she is free this Saturday to go watch a movie with him. He says going alone is too boring, making it clear he is asking her out. Movie, Saraphina's breathing speeds up, wondering if going together actually counts as a real date. After everything that went down today, Saraphina's feelings have taken a major turn. Before, she only wanted to avoid Kalin and push him out of her life. She desperately wanted to stop history from repeating, but seeing him bloody and hurt, and hearing him speak so casually of death completely shattered her emotional walls. It turns out she still loves him deeply, a feeling etched into her very bones. He is engraved into her soul, impossible to forget, if Kalin is truly ready to treat her right this time. Maybe she can find the courage to love him again, but moving on is hard when her past self was so brokenhearted. Healing from that pain is never as easy as just telling yourself to move on. For now, she decides to just let things happen naturally. Suddenly, a message chimes. "Where did you go?" Kalin asks, sending 2 messages in a row. "Are you asleep?" Saraphina snaps back to reality. Meanwhile, Kalin facepalms because he suddenly remembers a promise. He had promised Bria to help her out with a big favor this Saturday. He was so excited to invite Saraphina out that it completely slipped his mind. Plus, he already told his bro Leo he would attend a singles mixer. He texts that Saturday is busy and suggests Sunday instead, asking if she is free. She says she is free, so he offers to pick her up from home. But she immediately tells him not to come, planning to meet up by herself. She wants to keep things quiet, especially from her 3 overprotective older brothers. Back in their past life, they absolutely loathed Kalin, calling him worthless. They even got physical, dragging him into some really unfair, one-sided fights. It was a brutal 3-on-1 beatdown every single time, leaving him bruised and swollen. Even though that was a past life, those terrifying memories are still fresh. The images of her brothers beating Kalin up are still burned into her mind. Keeping them apart is definitely the safest choice. Kalin texts back asking why. He had actually planned to fix up his family bicycle just to ride her around. Saraphina replies that her family might get the wrong idea if they see him. Specifically, they might assume that the 2 of them are in a relationship. Her message has a subtle hint of probing, testing where they stand. She wants to know his true intentions, but Kalin is no clueless teenage boy. He can read between the lines perfectly. he could easily just agree with her, saying they are dating, but that would totally ruin his grand master plan. He has a much bigger romantic surprise in store for her soon. Just wait until Kixie Valentine's Day when he plans to make a move. He will give her an unforgettable, epic confession. Until then, he has to hold back, texting that he does not mind misunderstandings. He insists on picking her up anyway. Reading this, a wave of disappointment washes over Saraphina. Just a second ago, she was privately hoping he would domineeringly declare that they are indeed in a relationship. Too bad he did not, she texts back, insisting it is safer to stay away. Her parents might be fine, but if her brothers spot him, things will get ugly. Reading that, Kalin practically feels a phantom pain in his ribs. They only beat him up in the past because they deeply cared about her. Even so, he is determined to pick her up, telling her to just send the time. She has to sneak out when her family isn't looking. Just slip away, Saraphina. She thinks it over and honestly finds the idea pretty thrilling. All right, then. Come Saturday evening, Leo drags Kane over to the planned KTV lounge. But what completely shocks him is that Saraphina actually shows up there too, and right. Now Saraphina's face looks exceptionally displeased. She even keeps shooting glares in his direction, watching him act all cool and aloof. She is absolutely furious. She was actually considering giving him another chance, yet he ran off to a singles mixer and even deliberately put on this Cold Ice Prince persona. Kane definitely knows that girls love the aloof, mysterious guy aesthetic, so he is intentionally acting like this to attract them. Just then, a girl named Khlo looks at him and asks if he has a girlfriend. Hearing this, Saraphina lifts her head halfway, but the moment she looks up, she sees him staring right back at her, making her heart flutter wildly. They are asking him if he likes someone, so why is he looking at her? It is going to make her misunderstand. When he answers that he does, his eyes stare straight at Saraphina. His behavior in her eyes is an incredibly direct, unmistakable confession to her. After blushing with a racing heart for 2 seconds, classic romantic overthinking. Or maybe she is just overthinking things again. If she really is just overthinking, then who is the person he actually likes? The moment Saraphina thinks about the possibility that the person he likes isn't her, her heart feels like it is violently squeezed. Observing her reaction, Kane secretly rejoices in his heart. Since things have already reached this point, he is not going to hide it anymore. He stands straight up, walks around the table, and stops right next to Khlo. Khlo looks up at him in surprise, secretly overjoyed. Is she actually being chosen by this gorgeous, aloof male god? Her romantic luck is absolutely peaking today to be noticed by such a top-tier handsome guy. She decides that the moment he opens his mouth to ask, she will say yes in an absolute millisecond. Just as Khlo makes up her mind, Kane asks Khlo if she would mind switching seats with him instead. Hearing him say this, Khlo's brain completely jams, unable to process it for a second. Honestly, everyone else in the room is just as stunned. They're staring fixedly at him too, seeing Khlo freeze in silence. He patiently repeats his request. She woodenly mumbles her agreement. Just as she stands up, she watches him sit right down next to Saraphina. The girl stares blankly at him sitting next to her, her lips slightly parted, asking why he did not mention coming to a singles mixer. He counters that he was actually about to ask her the exact same thing. Why did she stay quiet? He quickly tells her not to misunderstand. He only came to make up the numbers. She can ask Leo if she doubts it since Leo begged him to help. Kane turns to look at his friend, asking why he is just standing there like an idiot. He tells Leo to explain, and Leo quickly jumps in to agree. He begs the campus queen not to misunderstand, explaining Kane absolutely refused, and that he literally threatened to jump off a building to drag him here. With those numbers, Leo finally realized he was acting like a nosy dog, chasing after mice and sticking his nose where it did not belong. Originally, he had dragged Kalin here to stop him from stubbornly clinging to one girl named Kalin. Thought his buddy was seriously unloyal and needed to make him treat him to a massive feast later, so that was that. Saraphina looked at Leo and he did not seem to be lying. After all, she was a respawner. In her past life, the very moment she met Kalin in college, she instantly recognized him as the little boy from next door who saved her from the river when they were kids. Ever since then, she had secretly been watching Kalin from the shadows, quietly digging up details about his life. So whether he had a girlfriend, she already knew. Kalin turned the question back. To her, Saraphina explained she only came because her friend Bria begged her. Bria was supposed to attend this mixer, but with the semester ending, she had to bury her head in studying and begged Saraphina to take her place, but right after she finished explaining, she saw Kalin smile. This instantly made her wonder, why was she so desperate to explain herself? Had she not just exposed her true feelings? Kalin nodded, understanding. He leaned his face closer to her. At this moment, that playful smile made Saraphina so shy she wanted to run away. With there. Honestly, anyone with eyes could see exactly where this was going. They were definitely an item. Kalin offered her a drink, pouring juice. He handed the glass to her, and she offered a polite thank you. He asked why she was being so polite, saying this was only natural. He spoke with a tone that implied it was the most natural thing in the world. Saraphina grumbled that he really did not act like an outsider. Kalin intentionally leaned into her ear to whisper back. In a low whisper meant only for her, he asked if she truly considered him an outsider. She claimed he was, both in her past life and in this one. But Kalin promised that in the future he would not be. Saraphina blinked, confused. His voice was too quiet, and she could not hear him very clearly. Kalin quickly changed the subject, telling her to drink her juice. She sized him up suspiciously, fully aware he was hiding what he actually said. Chloe chimed in, questioning the juice and demanding they drink beer instead. She wanted beer but did not want to look too hardcore drinking alone. So she poured a glass for Saraphina, too, despite her not drinking. Kalin immediately offered to drink it for her, reaching for the glass. The others complained, joking that they came to escape being single, not watch this intense public display of affection. They asked where their humanity was. With Chloe leading the teasing, the rest of the table quickly joined in, warning that showing off too much love might invite bad karma. They joked about a quick breakup, Saraphina, being far more easily embarrassed, snatched her glass back from Kalin, refusing to let him help. She insisted she could easily drink it herself, taking a bold gulp right then. She finished speaking, lifting the beer to swallow it down on her own. She insisted on doing it herself, picking up the glass for a quick drink. Seeing Saraphina drink so boldly, he figured she possessed a solid tolerance. But within 5 minutes, her entire world shifted. The cheerful laughter quickly dissolved. It became a chaotic, buzzing mess. Her vision blurred heavily. Her head began to spin with violence. Things were getting rapidly worse for her. Still holding onto half her consciousness, she knew she was drunk. Refusing to admit any weakness, she muttered about the restroom. Rising unsteadily, she swayed. Instantly, he saw her. Her state was clearly wrong. "Are you okay?" he asked. "I am perfectly fine," she lied. She widened her eyes. She desperately tried to pretend absolutely nothing was wrong. He offered to walk with her, but she rejected him. Seeing her helpless, drunken state was just too humiliating for her. She needed the restroom immediately. Cold water would fix this. But as she thought this, her weak legs suddenly buckled. She pitched forward, falling directly toward the hard, cold ground. Before she hit, a steady hand wrapped around her waist. He caught her securely. Her heart leaped in sudden panic. Fearing some stranger had grabbed her, she looked up sharply. But seeing his familiar face, she let out a long, relieved sigh. "Thank goodness it was him. Put me down," she quietly muttered. Being held like this felt incredibly intimate, almost too ambiguous. Luckily, her fierce blush could easily be blamed on the alcohol. He looked down at Saraphina, her face flushed completely rosy. His throat tightened. Honestly, the tension right here is completely unreal. But he held back because Saraphina was the girl he cherished most. Doing something so presumptuous would be completely disrespectful to her. "You are not fine," he insisted. "I will take you home." She claimed she could manage alone, but he teased that he would leave her. He warned that if someone targeted her now, screaming would not save her. Hearing his sudden warning, a wave of genuine fear hit her. Relenting, she quietly asked him to take her home after all. He laughed at her formality, telling her to treat him as her own. "Just command me whenever you need absolutely anything," he offered. Saraphina found it harder and harder to read his true meaning. She had no idea which of his sweet words were real or playful. Unable to decide, she stayed quiet while he called a taxi. The car was dark, and the heavy alcohol made her incredibly drowsy. This dim, quiet environment made staying awake almost impossible. Seeing how uncomfortable she looked, he gently reached toward her. He placed a hand on her head, gently guiding her down. Seraphina's eyes went wide at his sudden, domineering gesture. Her skin turned burning hot where his hand rested, sending electricity through her. Her first instinct was to push him away in panic. But resting against his warm shoulder, she felt inexplicably safe. She felt a profound sense of safety, slowly closing her eyes to enjoy this peace. She quietly wished this peace and comfort could somehow last forever. But happy times never last long, and the car soon reached its destination. As they arrived, Seraphina pushed the car door open to step out. She noticed he had stepped out too, and wondered why he was following her. It was a 5-minute walk from the gate to her apartment building. Since he had escorted her this far, he figured he should see her to her door. She insisted there was no need, since they were already inside the gates. Before Seraphina could argue any further, the taxi had already driven away. He just shrugged his shoulders, pointing out that their ride was gone. Seraphina realized that refusing him now would be completely pointless. She really had no choice but to let him walk with her. But after barely taking 2 steps, a strange thought suddenly hit her. She sharply whipped her head around to ask how he knew that distance. How did he know it was a 5-minute walk to her specific building? She only mentioned the neighborhood, never her exact address. She already suspected he might be a respawner, just like her. Watching her stare at him like that, he did not suspect the truth. He did not jump to the respawner theory like she had. Instead, he worried she might think he was some creepy stalker. He quickly made up an excuse, claiming it was just a random guess. It was a terribly flimsy excuse, but she could not actually prove anything. And just as he predicted, his stubborn refusal to admit it worked. Even though his story made no sense, she could not call him out. Before long, the two of them finally reached the lobby downstairs. As Seraphina said her goodbyes to head inside, he suddenly stepped forward. He leaned in close and told her he had one last thing to say. Seraphina blushed instantly, her face turning bright red as she asked what it was. She began to stutter, wondering why he had to lean in so close. Why was she getting so nervous, as if he was about to confess? Instead, he simply wished her a good night, leaving her completely frozen. He teased her, asking what else she thought he was going to say. She panicked, stuttering that she did not think anything at all. He called her a liar, teasing her for expecting something more romantic. She took a step back in retreat, but he kept pressing forward. He ended up pinning her right against the wall, leaving her trapped. He swallowed his nervousness, took a deep breath, and grabbed her shoulders. He leaned in forcefully, making her heart skip a beat. Was he actually going to kiss her? Her eyes went wide in disbelief. Surely he was just playing another joke on her. He had to be. That was what she hoped, but his face kept getting closer. He was closing the distance, looking like he was genuinely going to do it. Right at that exact moment, an explosive, angry roar suddenly shattered the quiet. A voice yelled out to let go of his sister, ruining the mood. That single shout instantly killed all the romantic tension in his heart. He instantly recognized that rough voice, knowing it was Seraphina's third brother, Flynn. Crap, his mortal enemy, the third brother-in-law, was here. He had to run. Before Seraphina's words even hit the ground, Kalin had already sprinted a solid distance away. Just as Flynn prepared to give chase and looked forward, he had already vanished without a trace. Are hooligans built with these kinds of athletic stats nowadays? Seraphina ran over, panting heavily, asking where he went. Flynn ground his teeth, muttering that the coward had already run away. Seraphina let out a sigh of relief, glad that he managed to escape. Flynn warned her to call him next time she came home late so he could pick her up. He reminded her that she had other brothers, and the night was too dangerous. It was a good thing he decided to go out and check on her. Otherwise, she would have been cornered by that total creep. Hearing this, Seraphina's thoughts immediately drifted back to their intimate moment downstairs. She wondered if Kalin would have actually kissed her, seeing Seraphina standing there. Lost in thought, Flynn assumed she was simply traumatized by the shock. He reassured her, swearing that if that creep ever dared to bother her again, he would completely thrash him, cracking his knuckles menacingly as he spoke. And get this, Flynn's fists were literally the size of clay pots, which immediately made her remember her past life, where Kalin was treated like a mop. Naturally, she felt deeply worried and asked if Flynn saw his face. Flynn frowned, muttering that the lighting was way too dim right then. He had not seen clearly, otherwise he would have called the cops. Seraphina was quietly relieved, but before she could even finish exhaling, Her sigh of relief, Flynn spoke up with another warning. He mentioned that even though he missed the face, he remembered the silhouette. If Flynn ever ran into that shape again, he would teach him a lesson. Saraphina began pacing internally, anxious about what she should do next. Feeling like an ant on a hot pan, she immediately went upstairs. She immediately called Kalin to check if he had made it back safely yet. Kalin laughed from his taxi, telling her not to worry because he ran fast. He claimed even her 3 overprotective brothers couldn't possibly catch him. Saraphina scoffed, casually grabbing a plush toy and squishing it into a ball before flattening it out, mentioning that her 3rd brother saw nothing. Hearing that his face was safe, Kalin chuckled and shook his head in amusement. He knew she had a tough mouth, but a wonderfully soft heart underneath. Even though she refused to admit it, her cute tsundere attitude was incredible. It hit all his exact sweet spots, and he absolutely loved it. Saraphina snapped back, warning him that there was nothing good about it. She explained that Flynn still remembered his exact silhouette and general outline. If Flynn saw him again, he would easily be able to recognize him. Kalin dismissed it, telling her that her brother was definitely just bluffing. He joked that if anyone had that superpower, the police would be useless. He jokingly apologized for the terrible metaphor, blaming his old school teachers. Saraphina rolled her eyes so hard she could practically see her brain. She then sighed, wondering if she should just explain the entire situation. Tell her 3rd brother it was all just a misunderstanding. Absolutely not. Since when does her 3rd brother ever listen to reason, his actions? Always bypass his brain, and he looks at everyone like they deserve a beating. There were even a couple of times he almost got arrested for fighting. Saraphina was utterly shocked by how well he understood her 3rd brother. Hearing the long, heavy silence over the phone, he realized his mistake. He knew his slip of the tongue was highly inappropriate, sparking her suspicion. Saraphina bit her lip tightly, her chest rising and falling with nervous tension. Of course he knew in his past life he was the guy's main victim. He admitted there were still some things he didn't want to lie to her about. But he hadn't figured out how to say them, yet out of fear she would get mad and never speak to him again. Hearing this, Saraphina grew even more suspicious. She grew suspicious that he really was a regressor and that his actions were just to make things up to her, but she wanted no charity-driven compensation. She wanted him to genuinely care, not just try to relieve his guilt. Saraphina thought about it a bit deeper. Wait, that didn't seem quite right either. Even if he had regressed, why would he feel so guilty toward her? In their past life, they were merely married on paper, with 0 interaction. They lived like strangers, and she had never even confessed her love. So why the guilt? If that wasn't it, why would he say those things? And what was with all that detailed information about her 3rd brother? Logically, none of it made sense. She was completely baffled. He grew anxious at her silence. Honestly, who wouldn't be in his shoes? He couldn't read her thoughts at all, terrified she was overthinking again. He gently asked if she was mad, but she wasn't angry. Her mind was just a complete chaotic mess that she needed to organize. Before she could think further, a sharp knock echoed on her door. It was her 3rd brother, loudly asking to borrow a pair of earphones. Whispering for him to stay silent, she slipped out of bed to open. Flynn stared down at Saraphina with a highly suspicious and intense gaze. He didn't know if it was an illusion, but she was acting highly unusual. As he kept looking, his suspicious eyes locked directly onto her phone. He demanded to know who she was talking to so late at night. Her heart skipped a beat as she claimed she was chatting with Bria. Clutching her clothes nervously, she stuttered out a quick excuse. Flynn muttered a response, his eyes still locked suspiciously on the device. Handing over the earphones, she asked if he needed anything else. He told her to sleep early and finally walked out of her room. As the door closed, she patted her chest and breathed a heavy sigh. He teased her over the phone, asking if she was really that nervous. She retorted that if he got caught by his family, he'd be shaking too. But he joked that his family would celebrate if he talked to a pretty girl. Saying she was done talking, she announced she was going to sleep. He agreed, reminding her of their movie date tomorrow night. Saraphina froze. Too much was happening today, and it was entirely nonstop. All that tension kept her nerves wound tight until this very moment. She had actually forgotten. Then Kalin says, "Wait, I was not finished. Earlier at your apartment, I said good night, but you never said it back. Are you not bored of saying the exact same thing every day?" Is it really boring? I actually want to hear you say good morning, too. You creep, she huffs, before immediately slamming the phone down on him. She covers her face with both hands, cheeks burning red and completely hot. Fast forward to 7 p.m. the next evening. Kalin is pedaling his bike, rushing over. He is heading to her place, but she texts him, begging him not to come. My parents are home, and so are my 3 brothers, but Kalin is already on his way. I will be at your gate in 2.5 minutes. Saraphina quickly walks to her bedroom door, cracking it open slightly to steal a peek outside. Her 3rd and 2nd brothers are in their rooms, and Mom is washing dishes. Meanwhile, her dad and oldest brother are together in their room. If she walks out like this, she will definitely get caught by someone. Suddenly, Kalin texts her that he is already at the gate. Come out, Saraphina frowns deeply and replies, they are all in the living room, they will catch me. They will interrogate me. Kalin suggests making up an excuse, but she refuses to lie. Then tell them the truth, he texts. Either way, he is already waiting. Saraphina gets increasingly anxious. Talk about stressful. Kalin keeps texting about the mosquitoes. She frowns even more as he describes their giant bellies and long legs. Her phone keeps buzzing nonstop with incoming texts from Kalin. Who told you to come? I already told you not to pick me up. After hitting send, she grabs her bag and gets ready to head out. Flynn looks up at her, asking where she is going. Saraphina grips her bag strapped tightly, pretending to stay calm as she speaks up. I have plans with Bria since she is pretty stressed from studying lately. We decided to watch a movie and relax. Flynn tells her to call him. Call me when you are done and I will pick you up. Do not walk down any dark alleys. If there is danger, call me. Saraphina sighs that she knows I am not a kid. 3rd brother, I know the rules, but after surviving that intense interrogation, she finally manages to escape the house. The moment she gets downstairs, she immediately dials Bria for backup. Bria answers, and Saraphina begs her to cover for her if her family calls. Just tell them we are together. Naturally, Bria smells some major gossip. She promises to help her best friend, but there is a catch. First, you have to tell me who you are actually meeting up with. Just him, she stutters, staring down at her shoes. Bria immediately guesses Kalin. Her silence is a total confession. Bria cannot believe it. Did he drug you? Besides being a little handsome, what does he have? Bria did some digging and found out he constantly plays video games. He gets caught gaming in class and probably plays in his sleep. He has absolutely zero real talents, and his family background is totally ordinary, but Saraphina argues back that she does not care about his family status. Bria sighs, claiming she is not materialistic, but her mother always says. Bria warns that without a solid financial foundation, marriage will be miserable. Saraphina thanks her for the advice, but insists she has her own reasons. Bria warns her not to come crying later while sitting on his squeaky bicycle. Right as Bria finishes speaking, Saraphina spots Kalin riding up on his bike. Why would he ride right into her neighborhood with her family around? He just smiles. Don't worry, he says, if I get spotted, I run incredibly fast. He claims he won't get caught, making her scoff at his ridiculous level of confidence. Too full of himself, she speechlessly rolls her eyes at him. He insists he is just genuinely handsome. She shoots him a dry look. Just get on first. He urges her to hurry, and she quietly nods. But looking at the back of his bicycle, there is no seat. He admits it is broken, having completely wrecked it by accident last night. He used way too much force while trying to dismantle the thing. She wonders where she is even supposed to sit, so he points to the front crossbar. Sit here, he tells her to sit right in that cramped space. Sitting there means she would be pressed completely and tightly against his chest. Just thinking about being that close makes her imagination run wild. Her face immediately turns as red as a cooked shrimp from pure embarrassment. She absolutely refuses to get on, declaring she will take a taxi instead. The whole situation is way too intimate and feels completely ambiguous. Her heart races, and honestly, can we even blame her for panicking? He complains that he rode all this way, so taking a taxi makes absolutely no sense. But she remains incredibly stubborn, absolutely refusing to budge on her decision. Kalin feels a sudden pang of regret for being so impulsive. He silently regrets dismantling that back seat and ruining his own plans. Still insisting on taking a taxi, she directly starts walking away. As he watches her walk away, a brilliant plan suddenly hits him. He turns back toward her apartment building and yells out a sudden warning. He yells for her to hurry and get on because her brother is coming. Panic takes over. Hearing this, her survival instincts instantly bypass her brain. She frantically steps up and sits right on the front bar. He wraps his arms around her and pedals away at lightning speed. Still reeling, she's still in absolute shock as they ride away. She turns to look back at the shrinking neighborhood, feeling highly suspicious. She asks him if her third brother actually saw them escaping just now. He reassures her he rides fast, but she suspects a trick. Stop acting, she demands to know the actual truth from him. She tells him to stop acting, realizing her brother probably never came downstairs. He claims he just saw someone similar, but she knows better. She playfully scolds him with a cute, annoyed tone for his trick. Their bicycle ride to the movie theater takes them about 30 minutes. Despite the long ride, they chat happily the entire way. He grabs her hand, they walk together right into the theater. She can't help but stare down at his hand holding hers. He tells her to wait while he buys popcorn, leaving her completely shy. She couldn't even look at Kayan. Her face was burning hot, her neck completely flushed. And her ears were bright red too. Kayan smiled, offering her an ice cream cone to cool down. Looking at Saraphina, she teased him back, calling him way too bad. With a flustered pout, she yanked her hand back and bolted toward the restroom. Watching Saraphina run away, Kayan realized he should probably ease up on her, teasing her. So much that she bolted would only backfire on him. After running all the way to the restroom, Saraphina stared at herself in the mirror. She looked heavily intoxicated. Why was Kayan teasing her like this? Did he really just love seeing her blush so intensely? It was completely overwhelming. It took several minutes for Saraphina to finally calm her heart. The moment she stepped out of the restroom, she saw Kayan holding a sweet ice cream cone by the door waiting. She asked why he only bought one, refusing to eat it. Saraphina assumed Kayan simply did not like sweets, but after taking 2 bites, she noticed him staring intently at the ice cream in her hand. She asked if he wanted a bite, and he admitted watching her made him crave it. She offered to buy another, but he pointed out the movie was starting. All the while, he kept staring unblinkingly at the ice cream in Saraphina's hand. Confused, she told him he could take a bite. But before Saraphina could even finish her sentence, Kayan's hand shot out, immediately grabbing her wrist and pulling it toward him to guide her hand. Looking right at her, he lowered his head and took a bite of the treat. Saraphina's pupils dilated instantly. Her heart began to beat frantically. She felt like her heart was about to leap right out of her chest, and, worst of all, the spot Kayan bit was exactly where she had eaten. As she stood there frozen in shock, unable to process anything, the melting ice cream dripped onto her finger. What Kayan did next made her want to instantly evaporate. He naturally leaned down and licked the ice cream from her finger. Just look at poor Saraphina. At this exact moment, she looked like she had been tossed into a steamer, cooked thoroughly and left red hot. She was literally steaming as everyone around them headed into the theater. Kayan checked the time. It was almost starting, so he told her it was time. She woodenly mumbled her agreement, holding her ice cream close. She followed right behind him, her eyes staring blankly ahead. Half an hour later, the movie hit its climax as the on-screen leads completely dropped their shy, awkward acts, since it was a college romance. The 2 characters frequently snuck off to empty, secluded corners to flirt, cuddle, and make out. Watching this made Saraphina blush furiously, especially when the leads started kissing. Her eyes widened. Kayan leaned in and asked if she liked watching this stuff. He had already watched this movie, so he had zero interest in the screen. Instead, he spent the entire night just staring at her. He noted every micro-expression, noticing that as the scenes got spicier, Saraphina became more mesmerized. She protested, claiming she hated watching this kind of stimulating stuff. When Kayan suggested leaving, she glared at him with pure resentment, insisting the plot was actually just really good. Lots of twists and turns, super thrilling. Kalin agreed, deliberately dragging out his words in a teasing tone. How could Saraphina not tell he was making fun of her? Just as she prepared to fire back a few retorts, the young couple sitting in front of them suddenly started making out like crazy. In the past, she had only ever seen this kind of stuff through a screen. 5. In real life, she had seen couples kissing on the street before, but always from super far away, trying her best to look the other way. Every time she encountered this kind of scene, she would look away immediately. But right now, the 2 people in front were so close and going at it intensely, making Her blush to her absolute core. Right at that moment, Kalen's hand suddenly reached over and pressed against her forehead, asking teasingly if she was sick. Saraphina wasn't stupid. How could she not tell he was teasing her? She swatted his hand away and abruptly stood up, but in her panic, she accidentally tripped her left foot over her right, crashing straight down onto his lap, his face instantly contorted in pure agony, turning purple. She smashed into the absolute worst possible target, dead center, perfect bullseye. She panicked, asking if he was okay. She had not meant to. Saraphina panicked. How could he be okay? This was a massive disaster. He joked about being the sole heir. If she broke this, she'd be history's greatest sinner. Saraphina was both anxious and annoyed. At a time like this, he was still joking. Suffer then, she thought, he deserved it. Ignoring him, Saraphina huffed and sat back down in her seat. Her heart was a nervous wreck. Despite her worry, she stealthily sneaked a peek at him and saw that he was currently readjusting his pants. Seeing this, Saraphina completely fled in embarrassment. After watching the movie, Kalin rode his bicycle and escorted her to her neighborhood gate, warning him not to come inside. If her family saw him, it would be bad. Kalin agreed to watch her go in. Saraphina nodded, turned around, and walked into the neighborhood. After walking a few steps, she looked back. He still hadn't left, standing there, holding his bike, watching her. She was already inside. Why was he still there? Saraphina walked a few more steps, looked back again, and saw that he was still watching her from afar. Go back, she shouted at him. He nodded but still stood firmly in place watching her. Saraphina felt an indescribable surge of warmth, and amidst that feeling, an overwhelming sense of happiness. Could she really possess this kind of joy? Could it just be a mirage, a beautiful but fleeting dream, just as her heart was filled with uneasy anxiety? Kalin shouted out loudly toward her, telling her to sleep early and wishing her a good night. The voice rang clearly, making her believe this wasn't a dream. This was happening in absolute reality. Saraphina clutched her chest, walking backwards step by step, the two of them staring deeply at each other. Soon, he was almost out of sight, and Saraphina finally prepared to turn her head forward. Her third brother suddenly asked why she was walking backwards. Saraphina was so startled, her tiny heart practically jumped. Nothing, she replied quickly. Right after she spoke, she heard Flynn's confused voice ask why that guy looked familiar. Hearing this, Saraphina's anxious heart violently skipped a beat. Another tense beat. Did Flynn recognize him? Is her brother really sharper than a police dog? He looks familiar, Flynn says again, asking Saraphina if she recognizes him. Doesn't he look like my old classmate, my former desk mate? Saraphina freezes for a second, then slowly turns her head to look right at Flynn. Actually, maybe not, Flynn mutters to himself. Saraphina lets out a quiet sigh. A massive sigh of relief. Kane was totally right about her third brother. Claiming he could recognize someone from a silhouette was definitely just a bluff. She was relieved. Around 11 p.m. that night, Kane finished his hot shower. He walks out of the bathroom. If he does not check his phone, he feels anxious, like he is missing something crucial. So, even when heading to the restroom, he absolutely must bring his phone. Taking a shower is his only exception. Whoa, Saraphina actually sent him a text. This is truly a rare occurrence. He taps into the chat screen. Saraphina sent a 1-second voice memo. She actually took the initiative to send him a voice message. He is incredibly curious about what she sent. He taps it and holds it to his ear. Good night. Hearing it, his eyes instantly bulge with absolute disbelief. After recovering for a few seconds, he types out a quick message and sends it back to Saraphina. Are you saying good night to me? Without him even initiating, she actually took the initiative to say it to him first. Saraphina, who had sent the message 8 minutes and 20 seconds ago, has been restlessly unable to suppress her excitement, just waiting for his reply. But when his text finally arrives, she gets even more nervous. Saraphina already has her excuse prepared. You yelled good night to me at the neighborhood gate earlier, so she feels she is just returning the courtesy. Yes, exactly. She tells herself that she is purely just being polite to him. They always say men are full of lies, but Kane thinks when women lie to men, they nail it completely every single time now. Whatever, even if Saraphina is lying, he is a totally willing victim. Returning the courtesy, you sure are polite. From this exact moment on, she has to send him good morning texts too. Why? Because he sends them every single morning. Saraphina belatedly realizes she has just been completely outplayed by him, but she was the one who said it. What can she do? From now on, she has no choice but to obediently send him both greetings. He tells her to sleep early, since girls are always prettier when they sleep early. He checks the time. It is almost 11:30 p.m. Final exams at Jiangchong University are fast approaching, and the pressure is starting to build. It is a shame his major is different from hers, along with her electives. Otherwise, he could easily just give her the exact exam questions. She immediately replies with an angry pout, asking if he is suggesting she is not pretty. Saraphina sends an angry, pouting message. He replies to her instantly, insisting she is incredibly beautiful, but did she not just say, sleeping early makes her prettier, then she can sleep late instead. Even pulling an all-nighter works perfectly for her. But as she analyzes his words, a radiant smile blooms on her face. Does pulling an all-nighter really work? Does that mean in his eyes her beauty stats are just that high? She giggles out loud, completely thrilled. The more she laughed, the louder she got. Flynn, who lived in the next room, came over and knocked on her door, asking what she was giggling like an idiot about. She claims she is just watching funny videos. He tells her to sleep. We have to get up early tomorrow. Saraphina pouts, agreeing to his words. She looks at Kalin's profile picture and mutters that it is all his fault for making her lie again. After pausing for a moment, she speaks to his picture on the screen, declaring that in this life she still chooses him. She hopes this time he won't disappoint her. Meanwhile, at that exact moment, Kalin sneezes massively. He thinks one sneeze means someone misses you, while two means someone is cursing him. It must definitely be his little wifey missing him. Smiling, Kalin turns on his desk lamp and pulls out some paper and a pen to start writing. Honestly, can this guy actually write romance? He scratches his head. In neither his past life nor this one has he ever written a love letter. His closest friend is Leo, but thinking of Leo's IQ, Kalin shakes his head, asking him for help would be no different from asking his kindergarten-aged nephew. Going solo it is then. He searches up some templates, but they are all way too cheesy. It is almost midnight, and he still has no idea what to write. The next day, the moment Ara comes out of her room, she sees him sporting a pair of massive panda eyes. Bro, did you not sleep last night? Slept at 2 a.m. Kalin replies, completely drained of energy. Didn't you promise mom and dad that you wouldn't get addicted to video games anymore, and yet you stayed up that late? Aren't you afraid your body is going to get completely hollowed out? Let me tell you, a person is like a burning candle. Normally, it can burn for a good long while, but if you keep fanning the flames next to it, you accelerate the burning process. Careful you don't die young. Hearing Ara's grand speech, Kalin furrows his brows, thinking back to the scene of Ara sobbing hysterically after his death. This girl actually had some serious prophetic foresight, wasn't that exactly what happened to him? Dying young because of extreme overexertion. He wasn't playing games, he was writing a love letter. Ara's eyes were huge and round, just like her face. When she rolled her eyes, it was extremely obvious. Writing a love letter. You think I'd believe that? Ara pointed out the window. Tell me the sun rose from the west and I'll believe it. I'm not lying to you, Kalin says. He goes back to his room and brings out the colorful envelope and stationery he bought, telling her to see for herself. There are two versions of the love letter written on the paper. They are the finalists he has narrowed down. My dearest Saraphina, you're like the moon in the sky, mirrored in the center of the water, forever anchored in my heart. You are like the moon in the sky. You won't drift away with the waves, forever staying right by my side. Ara reads up to this point and cannot read any further. She flips to the next page. Oh my god, this one burns my eyes even more. Miss you so much. Find a painter to draw you, stick you on my cup, kiss you every time I drink water. I got to say, bro, how much do you actually hate this girl? Are you purposely writing this garbage to make her so nauseous she can't eat? Is it really that bad? Sure, maybe a tiny bit cheesy, but it is not that exaggerated. Right? Not just nauseous, it is a billion times nauseous. Don't you watch Idol? He asks if she watches dramas all the time, wondering how he should write his love letter. She asks if he is actually serious about chasing a girl, but he just scoffs. He asks if he should chase guys instead, making Ara's eyes instantly light up with excitement. Completely speechless, his mouth twitches before he prepares to give her a little punishment. He delivers a solid flick to her forehead, asking what is going on inside her brain. He repeats his question, demanding to know the best way to write his confession letter. Ara complains, asking why he had to flick her head when it actually hurts. She calls him barbaric, questioning if someone like him could ever even get a girlfriend. He guarantees with 100% certainty that he will bring home the best sister-in-law. He makes this bold claim to her with total and completely unwavering confidence. Ara curls her lip. She does not believe his words for even a second. He dares her to another bet, telling her to think carefully first. He reminds her of that giant bucket of iced tea, instantly silencing her. She quickly makes a zipping motion over her mouth with her hand. Being a coward is fine, but having her head shaved bald again would be humiliating. Getting back to the topic, she explains what it takes to write a real love letter. If he wants to win a girl over, he must show his absolute sincerity. Girls today are smart and cannot be fooled with simple sweet talk anymore. He needs to find a way to let her see his genuine feelings. Ara's advice actually makes a lot of sense, perfect sense. He wonders what he should do to prove his feelings to the girl. She tells him to keep it simple as she picks up the letter from the table. Using his letter as an example, she explains that fancy words are completely unnecessary. He only needs to share his feelings, simple as that. Showing what he wants to do for her is enough, which acts as a major realization. Honestly, what is more humbling than being schooled on love by a teenager? He realizes he has not been seeing things as clearly as a high schooler. Sincerity is the key. Now he knows exactly what to write. Standing up, he instinctively reaches out to pinch Ara's cheek. He teases her for acting so mature, but she immediately squeals in pain. He teases Kalin about her chubby face while she protests his playful bullying. She complains he is hurting her soul, he went too far. He tells her it is his way of showing how proud he is of her. She jokingly threatens to fight him to the death as they goof around together. Looking at Ara, he cannot help but admire her helpful advice once more. She truly saved him this time with her genuinely brilliant suggestion. She boasts that this wisdom comes from her constant romance novel reading. She tells him to consult her whenever he has any future relationship problems. Ara pats her chest with absolute pride, acting quite pleased and cocky with herself. She is incredibly quick-witted, quirky, and always full of bright ideas. Because of her physical disability, she is far more mature than other kids. Seeing how clearly she understands romance, he cannot help but wonder about her future. Seriously, how does someone this brilliant end up choosing a total scumbag? A terrible man who dragged her entire existence straight down to hell. Thinking of this, a heavy wave of intense self-blame washes over him once again. In his past life, he only focused on his career, leaving zero time to care about. Ara's life, he honestly knew next to nothing about why she ended up choosing that absolute scumbag, but come to think of it, she used to visit their house all the time to have incredibly deep, long talks with Saraphina. Since their relationship was so great, he figured she might have mentioned something to her, but the current Saraphina didn't know anything yet. If she was a responder just like him, he could simply ask her, of course. That was just a fleeting thought, but as he was lost in his own thoughts, Ara was staring right at him with wide eyes. She couldn't tell if it was just her imagination, but he seemed incredibly mature and steady right now, not showing even a single trace of how an 18-year-old should act. Suddenly, she remembered their conversation from a few days ago. She had asked him where all that money came from, her intuition telling her there was a 99% chance he didn't actually win the lottery. His only response had been some chaotic nonsense answer about having respawned. She wondered if her brother could actually be a respawner. She asked him outright, since he claimed to have respawned. How old did he actually live to be? Was she just setting up a hypothetical scenario out of pure boredom, or just playing around? If he really respawned, at what age did he peacefully pass away? She wondered if his soul was actually some white-bearded grandpa. He absolutely didn't expect her to suddenly drop a question like that. His eyes darkened for a few seconds as he said 32. A sudden illness ended things early. His tone was deeply emotional when he spoke. She told him she must be bored out of her mind to listen to his nonsense. Rolling her eyes so hard she practically saw her own brain just a second ago. He was lecturing her about not staying up late, saying it ruins her body and makes her die young, yet immediately after, he used that exact same line to bluff her. It was so frustrating. A guy as bad as her brother would definitely live to be 100. He wouldn't just drop dead at 32. He watched. She turned her wheelchair and left, letting out a long, heavy sigh with a deep gaze. Afterward, he went back to his room to write the love letter. With a clear direction, his pen practically moved on its own. he wrote to Saraphina, apologizing for being blind and completely oblivious. All this time, he had failed to see how good she was to him, silently guarding him and staying by his side to take care of him. He blamed himself heavily and deeply regretted it. He knew no amount of apologies could make up for the immense guilt he felt. Half an hour later, a massive 2,000-word love letter was completed. With a heavy and incredibly nervous heart, he placed the letter into an envelope and locked it in his drawer. He was just waiting for Valentine's Day so he could personally hand it to her, wondering what her reaction would be. When she finally read those words, right at that moment, brace yourselves, his phone rang. It was Leo calling. He asked what was up, pleading for a $500 loan. Borrowing money from him, Leo's family financial situation had actually been vastly better than his, at least in their past life. Right now, their families were on the exact same level. Leo urged him to hurry up, saying he just had dinner with Macy. He was short on cash, a single dinner costing $500. How did they manage that? They didn't have enough cash. A single dinner cost $500. That much. Leo's family was really just doing all right. He had more allowance than the average college student, but his parents were still just regular working-class people, compared to a truly rich kid like Caldwell who cruised around in a Ferrari acting like a playboy. He was miles behind. It was not $500. They ate over $1,000 worth. Leo lacked cash. He was short $500. Hearing this, Jang frowned. This Macy was heartless, treating other people's money like it was not earned by hard-working parents, squandering it so easily. Complaining aside, Jang still transferred over the $500 to Leo. His friend thanked him, promising a future wedding invite. Leo said he would make him the best man before rushing to pay the bill. Best man, Jang quietly resolved that with him around, that wedding would never happen. Wedding day, during daytime classes, Jang listened to the exact same boring lectures he had heard in his past life. It was agonizingly boring. Suddenly, Leo spoke up. He noticed Jang's solid muscle, asking if he was secretly hitting the gym. Lately, Jang replied that he just increased his routine, inviting Fatty to join him. Leo immediately shut the idea down, saying his parents worked too hard to raise him to be this plump. If he dropped even a single pound, it would be the ultimate act of disrespect to his family. Jang was stunned. He had seen people make excuses before, but never anything quite like this. Linking weight loss to filial piety, Jang insisted he really needed to work out. Carrying all that weight had to be exhausting, but Leo disagreed. He claimed skinny people were the tired ones, constantly weighing themselves. Gaining just a couple of ounces forced them back to dieting on high alert. They could never drop their guard, otherwise the scale just shot straight up. But for chubby guys, there were absolutely zero worries. They ate whatever they pleased. Hearing this, Jang found it surprisingly logical, a completely twisted kind of logic, but logical. Jang warned him against only caring about his personal comfort. After all, girls would not be interested in him at all. Leo just shrugged. Everyone had their preferences. He insisted Macy absolutely loved his chubby build. If he got skinny, she would get mad. This talk had officially reached a dead end. Hesitating for 2 seconds, Jang frowned and asked a hypothetical question. What if the thing Macy actually liked was not him, but his money? Leo denied it instantly, claiming Jang simply did not know her. Leo suggested they all meet up this weekend so Jang could get to know her. He was convinced Jang would realize she was the best girl around. Clearly, right. Now Macy had Leo wrapped completely around her finger. This required a careful long-term plan. Jang could not rush this. Right as classes ended, he sent Saraphina a message asking to walk home together. Even though their houses were in completely different directions, he offered to escort her first. She playfully complained that he had far too much free time on his hands. But deep down, Saraphina was absolutely thrilled by his sweet gesture. Jang insisted he was not just passing time, warning her about the dangerous people roaming around. She was far too pretty, and he was genuinely worried for her safety. Especially lately, for the past 2 days, his phone had been blowing up with terrifying news about an active serial killer in town. With 3 college girls already dead, Kalin is deeply worried about her. He insists on walking her home, remembering a terrifying detail from his past life. 5 murders, that was the count before the killer got caught last time. Even though Saraphina was not on that list, he still felt terrified for her. But she texts back that her 3rd brother is already coming to pick her up. His plans are ruined. That future brother-in-law stole his job again. He immediately offers to wait at her neighborhood gate early the next morning. But her second brother has already promised to drop her off on his bike. Fold again, so Kalin immediately tries securing tomorrow evening instead. Right after sending that, he quickly shoots over another nervous question. He asks if she has already made plans with her oldest brother, too. Surely the eldest brother-in-law is a bit better to deal with. Then comes the reply, her third brother is picking her up tomorrow evening. Blocked again, that third brother is a total menace. So Kalin suggests pushing their plans to the day after tomorrow instead. But her oldest brother has the next 2 days completely off. He will spend both days driving her around and picking her up. Turns out the oldest brother is the absolute worst of them all. Saraphina quietly stares down at her static phone screen. She can easily picture Kalin grinding his teeth in frustration. She giggles out loud, completely unable to hold back her laughter. Suddenly, the professor calls her out, asking if his lecture is funny. He demands she read the English article out loud right now. Her classmate Bria gasps in shock, looking at the difficult page. The entire article is written in highly complex and advanced English. Just skimming the text reveals several advanced words she does not even know. Doomed, there is no way she can read this, and Saraphina is in deep trouble. It is highly unusual for such a focused student to get distracted. Bria wonders what caused the distraction until she spots the desk drawer. Saraphina's phone screen is glowing from deep inside her open desk drawer. A crying emoji is displayed on screen, showing Kalin is the real troublemaker. Bria decides she needs to warn Saraphina about trusting this guy. But Saraphina simply nods, completely unfazed by the sudden challenge. At this university, only advanced students attempt this level of English. Though only a freshman, she is a regressor who mastered this long ago. In her past life, she actually spent 2 whole years studying abroad in an English country. Her language skills are entirely on par with those of a native speaker. Reading a single academic page aloud is nothing more than simple child's play. She picks up the textbook and begins reading with perfect pronunciation. Her accent is completely flawless, flowing smoothly without even a single stutter. The entire lecture hall, including the professor, falls completely silent. Stunned, her classmates secretly record her impressive recital. They upload the video to the campus forum, calling her the ultimate queen. She is not just incredibly gorgeous, her academic talents are top tier. Hearing her flawless English, anyone would assume she was a native speaker. Anyone listening would think a native foreigner was speaking. He quickly spots the post on the campus forum, watching the video of Saraphina with her flawless pronunciation. He feels an immense wave of pride. That is his future wife. He is incredibly proud. He figures that in her past life, Saraphina must have studied abroad. Her English is insanely good, even though she is only a freshman. Her language skills are already amazing. This level of talent is honestly rare. The forum post is absolutely blowing up now, and the students keep chatting endlessly in the comment section. He shoves his phone into his pocket. Silly mortals, he thinks, what is the point of you posing our relationship? It is just a shame he was originally planning to walk Saraphina home after school today, but that plan got completely ruined by his 3 brothers-in-law. Right, the landlord of the Chushi apartment complex is moving out today, so he needs to go check it out. Saraphina's home is right near the Chushi complex. Once his family moves into the Chushi neighborhood, he will share the exact same route as Saraphina, but as he daydreams. Happily, he suddenly hears an incredibly loud, hostile voice yelling, "You little punk, you actually dare to stick your nose into other people's business. If you don't get down on your knees and apologize today, I will make you regret it." Hearing those words, he immediately knows it is thugs looking for trouble. Normally, when people run into this kind of situation, they stay as far away as possible to avoid getting dragged in. He's just an ordinary guy after all. He lacks the heroic, righteous backbone of a typical action protagonist. So his first reaction is the same as anyone else, but as he prepares to walk away, he hears a very familiar voice yelling, "I spit on you, thief. You want me to kneel and apologize? In your dreams, that voice belongs to his third brother-in-law," following the sound to the entrance of an alleyway. He peeks his head inside to check. Sure enough, it is his third brother-in-law. Flynn is currently surrounded by 3 guys, and all of them are holding steel pipes. Seeing this, he suddenly remembers a terrible event. When Flynn was buying groceries at the supermarket, he stopped a thief stealing a pregnant woman's bag, letting out a loud shout that scared the thief away. Later, that thief sought revenge, bringing a group of thugs to beat Flynn too. A pulp, they broke his leg, leaving him with a severe, permanent limp. It was incredibly tragic. The thief yells, "You won't apologize, then I will break your leg." Get him. The thief and the other two thugs raise their weapons and start swinging wildly at Flynn. He is completely unarmed. How could he possibly fight off 3 armed attackers? In just a matter of seconds, he takes 2 solid heavy blows. Oh crap, if this keeps going, Flynn is definitely going to end up crippled, just like in his past life. He is his third brother-in-law, so he cannot just stand by. If something happens to Flynn, Saraphina will be heartbroken. His body moves faster than his thoughts, lunging forward like a wild tiger to tackle one thug to the ground, snatching the pipe right out of his hand, yelling, "Run, get out of here." Standing in front of Flynn, he grips the weapon tightly. Flynn pants, "I am not leaving. Even if I do not know who you are suddenly showing up to save me, if I run away now." Right now it was 3 against 1. The guy who jumped in to help was going to take a brutal beating. Realizing this, Flynn stepped forward and stood shoulder to shoulder with Kalin, his face fiercely determined. Kalin knew Flynn had an incredibly stubborn temper. Even if he told him to run, Flynn wouldn't budge, so Kalin remained silent, his gaze sweeping across the 3 thieves, with his upgraded physical stats. Taking on 2 guys was easy. He told Flynn to take one, leaving the rest to him. A barehanded brawl. He needed to end this fast and go help the guy who had just saved his life. Back in school, Flynn was a notorious troublemaker who fought constantly. Very quickly, Kalin took down his opponents. Flynn called out, saying he was coming to help. But turning around, he saw Kalin smash a steel pipe into a thief's leg. He praised his buddy. Flynn stared at Kalin's clean, pale face, thinking he was just some fragile, pretty boy. He never expected Kalin to fight like this. Kalin urged Flynn to get to a hospital, staring at the bruises covering Flynn's body. His injuries were pretty bad. Flynn shrugged it off, calling them minor scratches. He bragged about fighting all the time in school. He promised to just put some medicine on it later. Then he asked for Kalin's name. Since Kalin saved him, Flynn wanted to repay him, even joking about taking his sister. Kalin laughed it off, thinking there was absolutely no need for any repayment. He just stepped in to help. Hearing this humble response, Flynn looked on with deep admiration, declaring that Kalin was now his brother for life. Kalin introduced himself, and Flynn immediately declared him his sworn brother from now on. He promised to step up and help with absolutely anything Kalin needed. Hearing those fiercely loyal words made Kalin think back to his past life, where this exact same guy constantly threatened him and beat him up. The massive contrast felt incredibly strange and honestly pretty ironic. But there was no time to think. The defeated thief crawled back up. The thief cursed, screaming that he was going to kill them. Kalin roared a warning. If that heavy steel pipe connected with Flynn's head, it would split his skull wide open. Seeing Flynn couldn't dodge, realizing Flynn couldn't dodge in time, Kalin rushed and shoved him away. The pipe slammed directly into Kalin's shoulder blade with a sickening crunch. A wave of paralyzing numbness shot straight up into his brain. The sheer agony made his vision go dark, nearly knocking him out cold. Seeing Kalin take that brutal blow for him, Flynn completely lost his mind. He lunged forward like a complete madman, ready to fight to the death. Flynn pinned the thief to the dirt, launching a barrage of brutal punches. Flynn threw a left hook, then a right, avenging him. He needed minutes to recover. He slowly regained his senses, begging Flynn to stop before he actually killed the guy. Blood sprayed from the thief's nose and mouth, completely painting his face red. Flynn finally got off the thief, immediately asking if his friend was doing okay. He shrugged, saying it was not too serious, but winced as sharp pain shot through him. Flynn insisted on taking him to the hospital, but he argued it was just blunt trauma. He insisted that applying some pain-relieving ointment at home would be more than enough. Kalin agrees to head over to Flynn's house, finding it the best option. Flynn thanks him for the trouble, but Kalin waves it off immediately. Flynn keeps insisting that brutal pipe could have cracked his head wide open. In reality, Kalin knows his own sudden move actually made things worse. It pushed the thief to the absolute edge, forcing him to swing wildly. Now check this out, Kalin actually shudders just thinking about that steel pipe. A cold sweat washes over him as he realizes how close it was. If that blow landed, Kalin would have been the one to blame. Good intentions wouldn't have saved them from a catastrophic, irreversible outcome. Thank goodness it was just a close call. 10 minutes later, they arrive. They stop right in front of the house Kalin knows all too well. As they reach the gate, Flynn announces their arrival with a grin. Kalin silently laughs. He has already snuck here twice in this lifetime. Flynn is just inserting his key into the locked door when it suddenly swings wide open. A worried voice calls out, demanding to know where the third brother was. She asks why he took so long, fearing something bad had happened. But right as Saraphina says this, she stops dead in her tracks. She finally spots Kalin standing right there behind her brother. Instantly, her eyes go wide with absolute, unmatched shock. She instantly demands to know what on earth Kalin is doing there with her brother. She can barely process seeing them together, completely losing her composure. She stammers out another round of questions, totally losing her cool. Saraphina's mind is absolutely racing as she stares directly at her unexpected guest. Seeing him standing beside Flynn is like looking at a ghost. Her heart pounds rapidly in her chest, completely filled with pure, unadulterated disbelief. She desperately demands answers as to why they are suddenly walking in together. Flynn tells her to stop blocking the door and let them inside. Flynn squeezes past his sister, pulling Kalin along by his uninjured arm. Flynn bellows at the top of his lungs, telling their parents to grab a first aid kit. The whole house stirs while Saraphina stands there, completely blank. Kalin quietly winks at her, and honestly, his acting here is top tier. Then he quickly puts on a polite, pained expression. Saraphina's oldest brother, Arthur, steps out to see the commotion. He adjusts his glasses, casting a sharp, analytical gaze at Kalin. Flynn proudly introduces Kalin as his newly sworn brother and lifesaver. He pats his chest proudly, though he winces in pain right after. Flynn explains how some thugs ambushed him in a dark alleyway. He insists Kalin leaped in like a tiger, taking a brutal hit for him. The moment she hears about a steel pipe hitting Kalin, her mind goes completely blank. All her confusion vanishes, instantly replaced by sheer, overwhelming panic. Her heart aches as she realizes Kalin was hurt protecting Flynn. Her voice trembles, and her act of playing strangers completely crumbles. She rushes forward, grabbing Kalin's good arm with frantic worry. She desperately begs to see where he got hit, completely ignoring her brother. Flynn blinks, utterly confused by his sister's sudden, extreme reaction. Are they worked up? Do they know each other? Saraphina completely freezes, her face instantly turning a violent shade of crimson. She realized she had completely exposed herself. Kalin quickly stepped in to save his future wife, explaining they go to the same university. Saraphina is the famous campus queen, so of course he recognizes her from speaking a few times. Finding out they are alumni, Flynn bursts into hearty laughter, completely oblivious to the massive loopholes in the situation. That makes it even better, pure fate. Kalin nodded along, agreeing it was absolute fate. He could not help but inwardly cheer. He had just bypassed the hardest boss fight in the entire game, the terrifying third brother-in-law who used to use Kalin's face as a mop was now his sworn brother. Mrs. Vance hurried out with the medical kit, calling him a poor boy and thanking him for saving Flynn. She urged him to strip so they could see the wound. Kalin shyly insisted he could do it himself, feeling too shy to strip in front of his future in-laws, but Flynn was not having it. Telling his new brother to stop acting like a stranger, he reached over and yanked the collar of Kalin's t-shirt, pulling it right over his head. A sharp gasp echoed through the room. Across his left shoulder blade lay a massive, horrifyingly dark purple bruise, swelling ominously against his otherwise flawless muscular back. Talk about heartbreak. Saraphina covered her mouth with both hands, her eyes instantly brimming with tears. Her heart felt as if it were being violently squeezed by an invisible hand. In their past life, he died so young. In this life, he was already taking life-threatening hits. Why was he so stupid? Why did he always have to act so brave? Flynn gritted his teeth, his eyes red with guilt. He claimed he owed Kalin his life and wanted to apply the medicine. Saraphina suddenly stepped forward, her voice carrying an undeniable firmness. She snatched the ointment and cotton swabs right out of her mother's hands. Sarah has never treated a wound, so Arthur offered to do it, but she insisted she would. Saraphina interrupted her eldest brother, her tone allowing absolutely no arguments. She walked up behind Kalin. He could feel her slightly trembling breath against his bare skin when her soft, cold fingers coated in medicinal oil touched the burning bruise. He involuntarily sucked in a breath. she softly asked if it hurt. Her voice carrying a distinct, broken tremble, Kalin quietly reassured her that it did not hurt, lying smoothly, with the campus queen personally applying medicine for him. Even a fatal wound would heal instantly. She softly scolded his nonsense. Her tears threatening to fall, Flynn crossed his arms, nodding, provingly calling his new brother tough as nails and a true man. If Flynn only knew that Kalin was using this opportunity to relentlessly flirt with his precious little sister, he would probably pick up that steel pipe himself and finish the job the thug started. That night, Kalin was forced to stay for dinner. The treatment he received was nothing short of imperial. Mr. Vance poured his finest aged wine, which Kalin politely declined due to his injury. Mrs. Vance piled his bowl so high with meat it looked like a small mountain, while the first and second brothers toasted him with juice. Whenever Caldwell was brought up in the past, the brothers would praise him, but today things were different. Arthur told Kalin to just let Sarah know if he ever needed anything at school. He adjusted his glasses, adding that Kalin was infinitely better than that Caldwell kid, who only knew how to show off his family money. Kalin caught Saraphina's eye. Across the table, she quickly looked down, a tiny, unstoppable smile playing on her beautiful lips. Days passed and the campus dynamic shifted drastically. Caldwell tried to corner Kalin after class, only for Flynn, who had specifically visited his campus, to bring him bone broth soup cooked by Mrs. Vance, to step right in between them. Listen here, rich boy, Flynn had snarled, poking Caldwell in the chest. Kalin is my sworn brother, you mess with him, you mess with the Vance family. Got it. Caldwell had looked like he swallowed a live toad. The sight was so beautiful Kalin almost cried. As the Kikshi Festival, Chinese Valentine's Day, approached, the atmosphere between Saraphina and Kalin grew increasingly thick with unresolved tension. They hadn't spoken about the baby voice memo. They hadn't spoken about the hospital incident, but every morning exactly at 7 a.m., a good morning message would light up his screen, and every night exactly at 11 p.m., a good night would follow. Kalin had been meticulously preparing for Kikshi. He booked a private rooftop garden restaurant overlooking the sparkling night view of Jiangchong. He bought a massive bouquet of 99 red roses, and most importantly, inside the inner pocket of his jacket rested the 2,000-word love letter he had agonized over. When Saraphina arrived, his breath completely hitched. She wasn't wearing her usual casual college attire. She wore a pristine flowing white dress that hugged her slender waist, her hair styled in gorgeous large waves. She looked exactly like the day she visited his grave. A sharp pang of phantom pain struck his heart, but he quickly suppressed it with a smile. You look beautiful tonight, he said. Seraphina's cheeks flushed under the fairy lights. You don't look too bad yourself, she replied. The dinner was perfect. The ambience, the soft violin music, the gentle night breeze, but neither of them was truly focused on the food. The air was charged with a magnetic, undeniable electricity. Oh, they both knew what tonight meant. After dessert was cleared, Kalin took a deep breath. His palms were actually sweating. He stood up, walked over to her side, and pulled out the envelope. Saraphina, his voice was low, incredibly serious. Saraphina looked up, her beautiful eyes shimmering with the reflection of the city lights. I have never done that before, he said. I am not good with words and have been overwhelming lately. He started looking deeply into her eyes. But I need you to know that every single thing I have done, I did because I am absolutely, irrevocably in love with you. Seraphina's breath caught. Her hands gripped the napkin in her lap. I wrote this for you, he said, handing her the envelope. Please read it. With trembling fingers, Saraphina opened the envelope. She unfolded the crisp stationery. Kalin watched her face carefully, his heart hammering against his ribs. She began to read. At first, her expression was soft, a shy blush coloring her cheeks, but as her eyes scanned further down the page, Kalin noticed a sudden shift. Her brow furrowed, her pupils dilated, her breathing became rapid and chaotic. He had been blind and completely oblivious. All this time he failed to see how good she was to him. He didn't know she had always been silently guarding him, staying by his side, taking care of him. He blamed himself heavily, and he deeply regretted it. Saraphina's hands were shaking so hard the paper rattled. She stared at those specific words, taking care of him, silently guarding him. Oblivious. In this life she had done none of those things. In this life they had barely known each other for a few weeks. She hadn't ironed his clothes. She hadn't cooked him hangover soup. She hadn't secretly kissed him while he slept. There was only one reality, one timeline where she had done all those Things, Seraphina slowly lifted her head. The look in her eyes was an earth-shattering mixture of shock, disbelief, and a desperate, fragile hope. Tears instantly welled up, spilling over her long lashes and trailing down her flawless cheeks. Kalin, her voice was a broken whisper. Choking on a sob. Why are you crying? He panicked, stepping closer desperately. Reaching to wipe her tears. Did I write something wrong? I'm sorry. She interrupted, her voice gaining a sudden, desperate strength. She stood up. Completely disregarding the falling chair behind her, she looked him dead in the eye, her gaze piercing straight through his 18-year-old exterior, looking directly into his soul. The person you wrote this letter to, Seraphina choked out, taking a step closer until her face was mere inches from his chest. Is it the 18-year-old me or the 32-year-old me? Boom. It felt like a nuclear bomb had detonated directly inside his brain. His entire body froze into a solid block of ice. The world around them vanished. The city lights, the music, the night breeze, everything ceased to exist. There was only her question, the 32-year-old me. His jaw slackened, his eyes widened to their absolute limits. He looked at the girl in front of him, the girl who cried at his grave, the girl who begged the doctor to take her life instead of his, the girl who got hit by a truck trying to catch the wedding ring he gave her. She remembered. She knew she wasn't just his 18-year-old crush. She was his wife. Seraphina, his voice was hoarse, entirely stripped of its previous youthful arrogance. Answer me. She cried out, her fists weakly pounding against his chest. You absolute idiot. You jerk, was it you? Were you there when I was at the hospital? Have you known this whole time? The dam broke, all the suppressed guilt, the agony of watching her suffer as a ghost, the overwhelming relief of finding her. Again, it all crashed over him like a tidal wave. Without a single word, he wrapped his arms around her, pulling her fiercely into his embrace. He buried his face into the crook of her neck, inhaling her familiar, deeply missed scent. It is me, he whispered, his own voice breaking as a tear slipped from his. It's me, wife, I'm back. I'm so sorry I left you. Seraphina let out a wail that had been buried in her soul for 4 excruciating years. She buried her face in his chest, her hands gripping his shirt so tightly her knuckles turned white. You promised, she sobbed, hitting his back. In the next life you promised you'd never let me suffer. I swear it. He held her tighter as if trying to merge her into his very bones so they would never be separated again. If everything could restart, he swore he would protect her. He would never let her shed a single tear of sadness again. He loved her, Seraphina, from their past life to this one and every life after. Under the brilliant night sky of the Kishi festival, 2 souls that had crossed through the boundaries of life and death. The two had finally found each other again, facing a vast future ahead. They had lost university days to make up for, alongside a family that finally accepted him. A whole lifetime lay ahead to rewrite their story as he held his sobbing wife close. Feeling her heartbeat synchronized with his own, he knew one thing with absolute certainty. This was real.